The Stadium Heads Conference USA Stadiums episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win up to 325 times your entry with their brand new Pick 8. Sign up, and when you do, sign up with the promo code TCE SGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. Yes, they do have college football action. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCE SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Yes, build your own betting model using their AI betting engine. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm.
This is Coach June Jones, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride.
Have something new coming up. One thing that's been done in any case is education. More education, the more informed people are. That's the way it is with everything. The young men, they ask me advice, and I always tell them, get as much knowledge as you can.
Stadium Heads, man.
The granddaddy of them all, the famed Rose Bowl, jammed with the color of over 100,000 fans for its 67th renewal.
And the weather here today at Notre Dame Stadium, in a word, it is cold, but it is football weather. The temperature 37 degrees, humidity 79%. Forecast cloudy for light rain later on this afternoon.
The average person doesn't know what a good stadium is. They might think they know what a good stadium is, but they think just, our seats are nice and it's so comfortable. We have a 10,000-inch screen we can watch the replay on while we're watching the game, and we got a waiter coming over to take our orders, right? And there's 20 million bathrooms close to us. That's not what makes a good stadium. A good stadium is the look of it, the feel of it, the history of it, the soul of it. That's what makes a good stadium. That's what I mean when I said we're stadium heads. We are stadium heads.
They get to run around. Now those people, they shouldn't even be there. That doesn't even count. If you can't get out in the elements, you shouldn't even go to the game. That's the worst thing. Those darn boxes up there and dome stadiums and stuff. We don't need that, right?
Welcome to sunny El Paso, the 52nd Sun Bowl, and now
this ancient facility is one of the great settings in all of college football. Neyland is now in its 87th year.
That's what we are, though. We are stadium heads. Welcome back to the Stadium Heads. Look, Conference USA edition. I'm excited to talk about this. There's a brand new Conference USA. I feel like this conference has been changing. Everyone talks, Big 12 and all the change throughout the years. I would argue, I think the Conference USA, I know this maybe more because I'm an ECU guy, but the radical change within the Conference USA over the past 25 years, I would say, has been, I think, second to none. Excited to talk about it. They still have a nice set of stadiums, and I'm excited to talk about it. YouTube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN, folks. Part of our series as we continue on this journey, going through all the conferences, and I highly recommend watching this show. If you're listening to the show, that's fine too. The shoe fits for that too, but I think the best version of this show is watching it. YouTube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. If you're wondering just who the hell you're listening to, that is fair. My name is Colby Swinging Database Dan, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
Nobody knows nothing. Somebody knows. Double the price, but no one touches Dundee.
Oh boy, I love talking CUSA. I do have I have a soft spot for the CUSA. I like some of the additions they've done over the past decade or so, despite losing some of their power, I should say. Excited to talk about it. I am joined by my co-host. He is known as the most interesting man in college football. And also, ESPN might have said his introduction better than me.
Shout out Michael Barker. You can follow him on Twitter at CFB Campus Tour. This is his 84th college football game of the 2023 season. He said he's going to end at 90 college football games he's attended this year with the college football national title in Houston. And so, again, he's out there with everybody.
He's like
wet
US
weather.
Postal Service. Rain, sleet, snow, it doesn't.
He is like the U.S. Postal Service. Rain, sleet, snow, whatever they're saying. Give it up for Michael Barker, a.k.a. College Football Campus Tour. How are you, brother?
Man, I'm doing great. And, last week we did MACtion, and MACtion plays all those Tuesday, Wednesday games in November. And as a traveler trying to stack games is very vital for that. Well, Conference USA last year jumped into the same format in October and really changed the game. And I got to go to almost all the schools last year and was very grateful and got to see the stadiums all in person for myself with a very recent visit. So this will be cool to go over these. And as you mentioned, not only has the conference changed a lot recently, but we got 2 new teams coming in next year with Missouri State and Delaware. So constant flux, but we like the spotlight being shined on new teams. And we've gone through every FBS conference, and this is the last one. So fun to go through all 9 of these conferences.
Yeah, and Missouri State and Delaware coming in, regardless of how you feel, folks. That will put them at 12 after Kennesaw is joining this year. And it's an interesting conference. I kind of like it, man. I mean, considering for a second there, it looked like they're going to be dead in the water, but they adapted. And that's really like the Big 12 did the same thing. Is a lot of people thought the Big 12 was dead. It adapted, and kudos for staying alive. I mean, you could be the Pac-12, you could be the Big East. So you got that going, and I really believe that's one of the smartest things they have done. Now, it doesn't even mean like I'm cool with them doing Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but I'm always perplexed. And I know I feel like we've talked about this a million times, whether on air or not. Why say the Big Sky? Why say, some of these other conferences doesn't try to attack weeknights more? I mean, I know I had Dan Hawkins on the show, on the College Football Experience show, and he was talking about how like Boise State was like going after that spot, but they'd hit up ESPN and say, "Hey, we want to get a Thursday game. You want to do a Thursday game?" And I think it's really helped build their credibility. I don't understand why we're gonna throw, even as an ECU fan, I don't understand why we're going at the same time slot as North Carolina and NC State some Saturdays. It doesn't make any sense. I don't even understand why some games would be on a Saturday. I understand the fan, you're trying to bring in the fans, but at the same time, come on, you only get 12 football games a year. If your fans can't show up for that, they will, the more excitement that builds around it, because it's only, 6 times a year, probably. For a mid-major, it might even be less. So that would be the one thing that I was glad to see them reach out to doing weekday games in October, but I'm still like looking at the schedule this year and last year. We're too weak on Thursdays. Like they're so afraid of the NFL. It's like, just go at it. College football has always been Thursdays. NFL's new to that shit. Just play more games on Thursday. Am I crazy?
No, you're right. And, some of it has to do with networks selecting games. I know that they would want to be on at certain times, but, App State, for example, I've been to 5 games at App State and only 1 at ULM. I've only been to 1 game at Texas because Texas always plays on Saturdays. So that familiarity, getting to do these over and over, it really grows your connection with the school. And, we talked about MACtion last week. When Ohio plays Toledo on a Saturday, it's going to get lost in the shuffle, but on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, it's out there. So I agree with you. I know that we've talked about the trade-off with the ticket sales and that sort of thing, but it's a way to get in front. And Conference USA, they did a bold move last year. And when we show my chart of the school, my last visit to each school, I went to all of them except 1 last year, and Kennesaw State is jumping in, and this year it's the same thing. So I like it. I like to get familiarity. It helps you connect with the fan bases. You can really showcase the stadium, and so we wish that it would happen. And then as far as the Thursday night, I know that week 2 there's no Division I Thursday night game because it's going up against the Kansas City Chiefs, Baltimore Ravens opener. Week 4. It's only Temple and Army playing, and that's in an NFL stadium. There's not a D1, D2, NAIA game. That's the only game that. So yeah, we don't want them to be scared of the NFL because, as we've said many times, college football fans are going to locate college football on the TV, regardless when it's played. So strides made in the right direction, but we wish that more people would jump on board, as you mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah. Folks, also, we want you to jump on board. Yes, you are listening to the Stadium Heads podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. The Sports Gambling Podcast is getting you ready for college football with their conference preview series. Go check out that on the Sports Gambling Podcast. I'm on all those episodes. Tune in wherever you get your podcast or in the SGPN app, which is free to download in the App Store, Google Play Store. Remember, as always, folks, too, let it ride. I am freshly back from Mountain West Media Day. Man, tell you, it gets ready. I mean, it was great. It was absolutely fantastic. It gets you really ready for the season, man. Like it's actually like you come back home and you're like, wait, I still got, 2 months, you know what I mean? What's going on? But it was fantastic I met with, I got interviews with like 10 of the 12 Mountain West coaches. I got to talk to a lot of the players. It was fantastic sitting down. I highly recommend, folks, if you get a chance. I think the Mountain West is going to be one of the most interesting conferences this season because with that 12-team playoff, they have, I think, a leg up on the rest of the conferences because they have that tie-in with Washington State and Oregon State where they play seven teams play them. And then you have the aspect, so that they're getting stronger as a conference by adding those two games, but then you have the AAC, which has lost a lot of heat. SMU won their conference a year ago, gone. You know what I mean? And UCF, Houston, Cincinnati, gone. So I think like that's what's going to be interesting to see. And I know I want to talk more about what I did there, but I'm fascinated, like what the committee will do because if Liberty goes 12-0, and I think you have a 10-2 Mountain West team or a 9-3 Mountain West team, I think it's a good argument with the way these Mountain West schedules are this year. Fresno's opening up at Michigan, and I love Liberty, but they don't play a lot of meat on the bone this year. Boise's taken at Oregon, you know what I mean? So these teams are gonna probably have a loss. So it's gonna be very fascinating. But I think that conference should be at the forefront of the 12-team berth, at least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and what's also going to happen is the Mountain West moved their championship game to a Friday night. And so there's going to be a AAC, CUSA, Mountain West showdown for eyeballs that day. And for me, last year, I went to the Conference USA championship at Liberty. The year before, I went to the AAC championship at UTSA. And so it's going to be what's the best game. And if there's playoff implications in any of them, that's where we want to be. So they're all played on campus. And in your scenario, if we got 11-0 Liberty going against, let's say New Mexico State, we got a 10-2 Boise going against a 10-2 Fresno, or let's say we got Army playing at Tulane. I mean, those are going to be some tough choices. So, but that's great that you got to talk to all those coaches, get some insight about what's going on with the Mountain West, because just because they're formed the way they are this year, there's so many moving parts that who knows how it's going to end up.
Yeah. One of the more fascinating ones that I got to do was Bronco Mendenhall, and I didn't get to record this. Bronco Mendenhall, basically was telling me, he's like, so I come up to him, I try to set up an interview, which we could have done, but they were the last possible time slot and they didn't give me 100%. They said, he may be able to, but you have to stay till 4. I interviewed everybody else that I could. So I was like, wait, so I stay 2 hours with the potential. You're not going to be able to tell me for sure if I can interview him, but I got a chance to talk to him at lunch and I just went up to him and started talking to him. And cause I was like, college football is better with you in it, but what I was still perplexed at why he left Virginia, and he didn't really answer that one to me, but he did say, because I said, so why New Mexico? And he goes, well, I was sitting on my ranch in Montana and I just figured, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be coaching football. I'm supposed to be helping kids. And, I thought that was a pretty surprising answer. And I thought that was a pretty, profound answer in a way, because I didn't expect, like, he could have gone to a lot better schools. When you really think about it, this guy won at BYU, was their best coach since LaVell Edwards, and then won at Virginia. And then he just kind of just walked away, and Virginia hasn't been, he's the best coach Virginia's had since George Welsh in the 90s. So like, I really believe had he sat there and picked and choose his opportunities, like he could have been the next head coach at Baylor. He could have been the next, wherever. But to choose New Mexico, now I know he had ties. He coached at New Mexico with Rocky Long back in the day when they had Brian Urlacher, but I thought that answer was pretty interesting to me because it was just like, okay. And I think he likes the fact there's no pressure there. And I think he likes the idea if he can build that thing up. So it was pretty fascinating, man. It's a bummer I couldn't record that though, because I wanted that on air for the people.
Well, we got the college football game coming out tomorrow, CFB 25, and a lot of people are going to be rebuilding dynasties. And you've seen all these tweets about, I'm going to start with Hawaii and I'm going to start with Kennesaw State. So Bronco Hall is extrapolating that to the real college football landscape going down to Albuquerque. And I was just at a game there last year. The stadium is set up. The location is cool. And there's some similarities between Montana and New Mexico, not weather-wise, but population-wise, setup-wise. So he probably feels comfortable there. And as you mentioned, low-pressure job. And, if he brings them up, he's going to get more credit than say he went. If he goes to Baylor and takes them to the Big 12 championship, he'll get way less credit than if he did it in New Mexico. So I'm sure he likes the challenge. And coach is coach. You can't take that out of him.
Yeah, he will. And another one is I sat down with Timmy Chang. Now that one will be released this in the next couple of days here. Timmy Chang, man, he makes you want to run through a wall. I got done interviewing him and I'm like, oh, let's go, man. He's just a bundle of fun to interview, man. Timmy Chang, always with a ton of energy. If you didn't know any better, you would think he played middle linebacker. The way, or safety or something, the way he's talking aggressively. And he's doing an interview with me. And he's like, basically being like, we got to go out there. And he keeps like pounding his fists and everything. I'm like, this is a former quarterback. This is a guy cool. ready to knock someone's teeth out. So yeah, folks, check out the College Football Experience. And yeah, if you ever get a chance to go to media days, I highly recommend it because it's cool because you get to be able to talk and politic and I was lobbying for UNLV to go back to Sam Boyd. You'll see that on a show. But anyway, this is about what's that?
Doing the Lord's work right there.
Doing
Thank you for
breath by breath, right? Folks, this is the Conference USA preview though. So check out, we'll talk more on the Mountain West in the coming days. But yeah, I mean the Conference USA in general, 12 teams next year. It was 9 last year. It's 10 this year. And I know it's gotta be hard. I don't know that there's, Conference USA had TCU at one point. They had Cincinnati. They had UCF. They had ECU. They had basically everybody in the AAC and some of the teams at one point that went to the Mountain West, being TCU. It's been a wild ride, but hey, survive. There's just finding ways to survive. What's your overall opinion of the Conference USA?
Well, it's exactly what you're talking about. It's restructured. You got some teams that have been there for a little bit, like FIU and La Tech, and we talked last week about Middle Tennessee and Western Kentucky considering the move to the MAC. But I go to a lot of FCS stuff, and Delaware has been a power there for a while. They took Sam Houston State up, who was a year or two removed from an FCS national championship. Kennesaw State, they went to the second round of the playoffs. I went to that game at ETSU. And Missouri State historically has been a pretty good FCS school. Both Missouri State and Delaware have nice stadiums that fit in well with G5 schools. So it's in flux. I mean, you can't hold on to these forever because people are picking and choosing who they want. So, we hope that some of these rivalries build up. In person, I saw Liberty play New Mexico State. That got some heat. We still got the Battle of I-10, New Mexico State and UTEP, which is huge to have. And we'll see how these other teams slot in. But as you mentioned, right now, Liberty is the top team, but two things could happen. One, somebody can come up and take their spot, or Liberty could possibly move on to another conference. So every year it's going to be a year-to-year thing, but it's definitely exciting to watch.
Yeah, folks, I see 802 people watching right now. Hit that like and subscribe button. Once again, youtube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. You're probably watching this on a number of different platforms, depending on the listener or viewer. But if it is really going to help if you go over there and do that, because we're kickstarting this show. We're still, we've only been doing this for a couple months now. So at some point we will jump off the other one. Shout out to Andre King, who says he's watching from Wisconsin. Appreciate you, Andre. And so, yeah, youtube.com, even if you're watching this on another one, open up another window, type in youtube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN and subscribe. Also, I want to tell you that the Conference USA Stadium Heads episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Pick 8's now live. Create entries up to 8 picks, and Underdog will automatically double flex entries, so you can miss up to 2 picks and still win your entry with more picks to make and extra ways to win. The excitement is higher than ever. And the best part, you can win up to 325 times your original amount. You can now use specials and boost on all flexed entries as well. Don't miss your chance to try it out before it's gone. So what are you doing, folks? Sign up. And when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. Yes, they have college football. Yes, they have college basketball. Right now I'm doing CFL, doing everything. MLB, underdogfantasy.com, promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. Yes, Circa. I was just there for Mountain West Media Days. Circa Sports is back with Circa Survivor and Circa Millions, giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. And of course, Circa contests have no rake. Look, Circa Millions, pick 5 NFL teams ATS each week and compete for $6 million, or survive the NFL gauntlet to claim the $10 million prize. Sign up in person at Circa Sports between now and September 7th and use a proxy to play from anywhere. We even have a deal with footballcontestproxy.com to save you $50. So jump on over there. Use that promo code SGP for that. Look, and if you don't have a trip booked yet for Las Vegas before football season, may I recommend the Ultimate Contest Weekend? It's a great time to go out. And if you go, you can hang out with my pals, Ryan Real Money Kramer and Sean Staggin' the Money Green of the Sports Gambling Podcast, and enjoy some of the open bar events at the greatest sports book in the world, August 22nd through August 24th. All right. We are back talking Conference USA. I'm excited about this one. Let's just jump into it. If you don't know our format, folks, get on over to YouTube, because we show you a lot of pretty much Michael's travels, essentially. Yeah, for ECU I added in one, but other than that, 99.9% of these are all Michael's work, because he's traveling nonstop. And give him a follow on Twitter right now at CFB Campus Tour, because trust me, when the season goes live, this guy, I think it's the best Twitter follow. And I'm not saying that because he's my friend. That's how we became friends. I contacted him and I said, "Who the fuck are you, dude?" Right? I said, "You're doing great work. Who are you? I want to know your story." So yeah, get on over there and check him out at CFB Campus Tour on Twitter. Let's jump into this, because I feel like it's pretty remarkable. And let me see what I can do here as far as removing this. So the last Conference USA visits for Michael here. He was at the airport, I like to call it, on Hangar 9, at Hangar 9, Florida International. He was there last year as the UTEP Miners came into town. He was at Western Kentucky, in Bowling Green, Kentucky there, right? I believe so. In 2000, Bowling Green, Kentucky. Okay. As Rich Rod and Jacksonville State came into town last season. You did go to Kennesaw State, but not for a game, correct?
Yeah, so the number has been 133 schools in FBS for the last couple of years, but Kennesaw State has been transitioning for 2 years, and so I knew that they were coming up, and then we found out last year that they were putting Conference USA teams on a weekday. So I decided not to burn a Saturday for ones that you could hold for an SEC school or a Big Ten school and wait for this moment. So I have been to the stadium, Fifth Third Stadium. I have been on campus a couple times at Kennesaw State. They have 2 weekday games in October. And I think the second one, I want to say like October 23rd, that's the one I'm going to go to. So right now I'm 133 out of 134 in FBS, and that one will be taken care of in October.
Let's go. You also went to Lynchburg, Virginia. Check out I like to call them the Flamin' Libs of Liberty, as New Mexico State play. You went to, that was the Conference USA Championship game, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I went to 2 games at Liberty last year. It was a regular season game against Sam Houston State, and I think they were like 5-0 at the time, and they won that. And then there were only 2 games on Friday of conference championship weekend last year. It was the Pac-12 championship at Allegiant Field Stadium, Roomba, which we don't like, and go back to Liberty and watch an on-campus conference championship game. So I got to go to Liberty twice last year.
Hell yeah, man. Their crowd's great. I got to get to a game, and I've done their pod a few times and they've invited me. Last time you were at Louisiana Tech in Ruston, Louisiana was last season as New Mexico State came to town. Last time you were at Johnny Red Floyd Stadium in Murfreesboro, Tennessee was last season as Jacksonville State came to town. You were in Las Cruces 2 years ago as New Mexico State Battle of, is it Battle of I-40, I believe?
I-10.
I-10. Damn it.
Yep.
What is I-40? Sorry. Is that the battle of, that's New Mexico State, maybe?
I think that's all I said.
Yeah, I'm all fucked up. Right. Either way, that rivalry is great. UTEP at New Mexico at New Mexico State. Anytime you can catch that, whether you're in El Paso, whether you're in Las Cruces, that is a heated rivalry. I love watching it on TV. Then you were in Huntsville, Texas. Check it out. Sam Houston State 2023 as UTEP came to town. UTEP everywhere here. And the last time you were at the Sun Bowl was a season ago as New Mexico State came to town. So you've been to back two straight years of the Battle of I-10. Fantastic stuff. How about those experiences, man?
Yeah, I mean, so the one in New Mexico State, we'll kind of get into it with some of the pictures. I won an auction to sit in the president and AD's box at Aggie Memorial Stadium, but it was the UTEP box. And so it was President Wilson and AD Jim Center. And I got to sit there. It was like 2 tickets for, I want to say $350. So I took my buddy Skip, who's a traveler from Nebraska, and we went there and I got to see that. That was the 99th Battle of I-10. And then the next year was New Mexico State at UTEP, and that was the 100th Battle of I-10. So I think you and I share a soft spot for the state of New Mexico and football there. And it's only separated by 45 miles. UTEP is obviously in Texas. New Mexico State is in Las Cruces, Mexico. So it's cool to have an intrastate rivalry that's been played for 100 years. And the beauty of having it for Conference USA is you could see it on the weekday. So I love those experiences. And man, I we'll get into the Sun Bowl, but I would go to them every year if I could. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I agree. It's one, if you gave me the personal jet, College Game Day's got to cover that one of these days because I would be there. The last time you were in Bowling Green, Kentucky was last season as Middle Tennessee. 100 Miles of Hate. That's the fun part about this conference is even though you think they're just throwing together a bunch of teams, I feel like people have said that. I'm like, you got 100 Miles of Hate and you get the Battle of I-10. Those are good rivalries, man. Those are good rivalries. So, and that you add Sam Houston, which I know maybe it's not historically there, but I feel like that fits. The shoe fits there. I love the fact that you could throw them on a weekday because 100 Miles of Hate, on a Saturday kind of gets, it's not nationally televised. You got to find it on ESPN Plus or something. So like this on a weeknight, I think is as good as college football gets in a way. Love the fact you went to that game. How was the animosity for that one?
So I've been to 2 of them. I went in 2019 and in 2023. And, when they call it 100 Miles of Hate, if you put it in your GPS, it's exactly 100 miles apart, which is, it lives up to the nickname. But, Western Kentucky has been better recently. And both the games that I saw were at Bowling Green. So, but yeah, you like it. You like when they come through. And to be honest with you, like, I wasn't going to go to the one last year until I decided to really go for the 90 games, because I was going to a Friday night game at Oregon State, and then I was going to a Saturday game somewhere else. So it was California, Bowling Green, then back to Corvallis, and then it was a lot. But I thought, man, you got to take advantage of any rivalry game on a weekday, exactly what you're talking about. So it was well worth it.
Folks, you just hear that travel schedule. This is why you need to follow Matt CFB Campus Tour and subscribe to the Stadium Heads. I see 914 people watching right now. Hit that like and subscribe button, folks. Before we go into the first stadium, which is the airport, Florida International, I want to tell you that the Conference USA Stadium Heads episode is brought to you by Rhythm. If you're betting on player props, then you need to download Rhythm. Rhythm is the go-to sports betting tool that transforms complex data into actionable insights, empowering bettors with smarter, data-driven decisions. Unlike other platforms, Rhythms combines advanced predictive analytics with an intuitive user experience, making betting both easy and enjoyable. Rhythms predictive models were born from the brains of MIT data scientists and quants, with over 3 years of data that help drive you to better AI-backed betting decisions. So claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. All right, back on the Stadium Heads, and now let's jump into this, because let's go to Miami, Florida. All right, I know there's a soccer game going on right now, but I'm saying, hey, let's talk about. I think this is a better stadium than what Miami plays in. Fight me on that. FIU Stadium there, 29 years old, seats 20,000. I dig it, and look at this. Look at this right here, man. I kind of dig this thing. Now, here's the thing I will say. I think they should own that Miami Vice thing. You know what I mean? I think they should do that nonstop. But I dig the way this thing, this right here. This. So I got
a story behind this photo right here. So first of all, I agree with you with the Miami Vice there. You know, UCF is doing the Space U. They're claiming that. And Miami or FIU is claiming the Miami Vice. And this photo right here, they got the pink end zones and they had a pink convertible on the field and they leaned into it really well. I know they're going to have another Vice night this year. So if you go back to the first photo, there is, and let's see if it's there. So you see that building behind the scoreboard over there. That is a brand new, and I'm going to throw out some stupid number. I want to say like $60 million 13-story dormitory. And I had 2 tickets to the game. I had 2 physical tickets. And so I went into the game, took my photos, and then decided I was going to try to get into the dorm to get, if you go back to that photo you were talking about, to get an overhead view, because this is not a common photo that you're going to get. And so creeped, waited for the door to open, slid my way in there, and then hit a staircase. And I swear it was like 13 floors through a, enclosed staircase. Got to the top, and there's a little study area, and there were students studying. And here comes this weird guy in FIU clothes and walked right past him and put my iPhone right against the window. And I mean, we did last week or 2 weeks ago when I got that UAB photo from the airplane. You don't get these opportunities. And so I've never seen a photo of FIU Stadium from this vantage point. And so ran up there, snuck in, got the photo, and then I used my second ticket to enter the game in the third quarter and finished out the game. So proud of this, but definitely a nerve-wracking adventure.
Yes, and that's what I love. I love that, man. They definitely probably told security, who was that guy who came up the stairs just taking photographs? But
I'm all on the camera. I'm all on the security. They're like, this guy is doing his steps, man, on the stairs. Look at him. So, and I'm like, how do you do, fellow kids? I was all leaning into that. So,
dude, they should own the Miami Vice thing, though. They got to do this because there's so much competition within the state. FAU's got the beach, right? UCF, has actually has upped it into, and you got the moon bounce, the bounce house, whatever. You got South Florida's getting the thing on campus. FIU, and then you have obviously the Gators, Hurricanes, Seminoles, but If they make it not 100% Miami Vice, they then become an identity. They have an identity. I think right now they're struggling for that identity. If they do that, just like FAU did with the beach, I think it helps people's recognition of who is this university. And I also think it looks pretty fucking cool. And you can have your students come out in like the Don Johnson, just like the cocktail shirts, like the, what am I talking about? Like Hawaiian shirts. You know what I mean? So it's something they got to conquer, but I do love this thing. What game was this right here with the Miami Vice?
So this was last year versus UTEP. It was a weeknight game. And, I went a couple of years. I've gone to several weeknight games. 2019, they played Charlotte. 2020, they played FAU in the Shula Bowl. And then this was last year versus UTEP. And you can see, if you're watching in the left corner of the end zone, the one there, you got that pink sports car they had. So they tried to prop it up. And, I think the enrollment at FIU is over 50,000. And so, we talk about sleeping giants. This place, the fans are great. Shout out Section 112, John Chia, all those guys. They always are cool to me. But, the stadium it opened with 7,500 seats and it had a track, and they opened in 1995 with the vision of opening starting a program, and they didn't even start it till 2002. They refurbed it, made it 17,000 in 2007. And side note, they played at the Orange Bowl in 2007 while this place was being renovated. And now obviously they got it up to 20K, but it's similar to Charlotte in that it's expandable and the top of the stadium is flat. And so it's expandable to 45,000. So the reason I brought up the enrollment is part of the issue of being in a major city like Miami, where there's a lot of things going on, is sometimes it's difficult to get people at a game. But this place, there is no shortage of students. There's no shortage of good weather. And it's a nice stadium, which if they can, you say whether they lean into Miami Vice or they get a good season going, they do have that claim in 2019. They beat Miami at the Marlins Park, which was the site of the old Orange Bowl. So you can live off things like that. But bottom line is they have the capacity, they have the attendance, and they just got to rattle a few wins off. And I think this will be a cool place to hang out in October, November in Miami.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. I love what they're doing, man. I love what they're doing. To me, I was only offering advice. I'm already a fan of what they're doing. I'm a big Mike McIntyre fan. I know they gotten rated in the portal, I feel like, the past couple of years, but I think he's a good football coach, and I think they'll find ways to be winning there. Love the license plate here too, with the score. The score from that game, correct?
Yeah, that was the score, 30-24. And I remember I went to a game, and I can't remember which game, but afterwards I listened to watched the end of this game on my phone on YouTube TV. And it was crazy because, little brother, you hear that whole thing, and they went and they beat them on the site of the Orange Bowl. And that's, there hasn't been a football game played at the Marlins Park since then. So fan got a license plate, and you could treasure that forever until they rematch, which, if you're Miami, what's the incentive to play FIU?
Yeah. All the Miami fans after that game were,
I got a day break, man.
Lou Holtz in it. Yeah, I mean, look, and I love those Sunblazer helmets are kind of fire too, man. I mean, I know it doesn't really fit their color scheme, but I mean, I kind of love them.
They used to be the Sunblazers, and first of all, I like FIU and all that. I don't want to stir the pot too much, but there's the UCF. They got the Citronauts, and they got the Knights, and we have more Panthers than we have Sunblazers. And so I was tailgating there in Miami with some of the guys I know, and they had this set up, and I just looked at that Sunblazers helmet with the colors, and it kind of screams tropical. And I really liked it. So maybe they're not going to change over, but let's get an alternate night where we wear that once a year, so a Miami Vice night, a Sunblazers night. It's too good of a helmet to leave behind. That's the way I look at it.
I didn't know that backstory. Fuck Miami Vice night. Let's just go Sunblazers the entire time. That is very unique. You can even go blue turf, yellow end zones or something, or something. You can make it look cool. That helmet is fire, man.
I agree. And that's why, we got, the Hawaii was the rainbows forever, and people, they changed the Warriors. But what was cool about when it was the rainbows is because there's actual rainbows that happen in Hawaii. We talked about the hurricanes, or, Tulsa, the golden Tulane green wave. Like, these are phenomenons. And so Miami, we associate with the sun. I don't know the entire backstory on it, but the sun fits Miami, Florida. So, and again, Panthers, they've done a great, you can see that helmet, the black one in the top left looks cool with the Vice, with the Panther. They've changed, some of them is the Panther, like with the claw going forward. Others are just the face, but they have a lot of options. And so again, they don't necessarily have to change all the way, but it would be cool to at least have one night a year Sun Blazers.
I just don't understand with a name that cool. Why would you ever ditch that? I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that history. When did they play as the Sun Blazers?
I want to say in the beginning, and I gotta, I don't know everything as far as like what led to the change, but you always think it's marketing, and somebody in the comments, maybe they can have a little bit more of a timeline better than me. But at one point, like, UCF was the Citronauts, Florida or FIU was the Sun Blazers.
Love it. They gotta get into that. They're missing an opportunity. Who are they going to for this intel? I mean, that thing is gold. All right. They have their own Sun Blazer beer. They got look at that old logo too. They were the Golden Panthers back then too.
Yeah. And there's a trend right now. I think, what did you say last week? If you're not selling beer, what are you doing? So last year was really part of my travels was to, be able to find these beers, and they popped up all the time. And I'm just Googling right here, and it says, after much consideration, we are saying goodbye to the Panther and welcoming back the Sun Blazer as our mascot. That was 1987. And, they didn't start their program till 2002. So the school was the Sun Blazers, whether the football team was or not, I don't know, but that was the mascot in 1987 for a period of time.
They got to go back to that. That thing's fire. Yeah. And look, every school should be getting in there with the beer, especially if you're not if you're not in the Big Ten or SEC. What are you doing? Link that to your NIL collective. What the fuck are you doing? Yeah.
And people buy these. They not only buy them at the game, but they want to offer them up to you at tailgating. I went to South Dakota State, and they got ears up for the Rabbits. Charlotte has got like the Norm the Niner one. Southern Miss has got, they all have these. And so, I went to Brown University last year, and they got the bear on there, Brown beer. So all of them are, if you could do it in the Ivy League, you should be able to do it everywhere in FBS.
Yeah, agreed. All right. Well, look, let's jump on over to Jacksonville State. I do see 1,058 people watching. Hit that like and subscribe button. Look, Burgess Snow Field. Rich Rodriguez, you mentioned a little while ago, maybe Liberty's 11-1, fighting for a chance to get to the 12-team playoff. If there was a second team, because Jerry Kill's gone from New Mexico State, but man, Rich Rodriguez is he's gone to the Pac-12 championships. He's won the Big East. You know what I mean? So like, wouldn't shock me if Jacksonville State's right there. Burgess Snow Field there, Jacksonville, Alabama, 77 years old, seats 24,000. I dig this stadium, man. This almost looked fake to me. I thought this was the college football game. When you sent these photos over, I was like, this guy sent me a EA Sports, rendition of this. This is a beautiful photo, man.
Yeah, so I will tell you, I think this was the second game of the spring FCS 2021 season. The first one I went to Tarleton State, and this was number 2. And this is like in one of my first FCS travel games, and I'm walking around the stadium, and I thought to myself, holy shit, this is a great stadium. And I didn't have my mind open to FCS as much. And that whole season, I went to 29 games. I tracked the whole season. I went to the national championship. That's when Sam Houston State beat South Dakota State in the championship. But going to Jackson, Alabama, to JSU Stadium and taking this photo, I remember tweeting this out, and I said something like, you have to open your eye, like join me in opening your eyes to these facilities, because that press box is amazing. You would never guess that this is a 77-year-old stadium. And, since then they've moved up to FBS. Got to give them a lot of credit. They had a great year last year in their first year as an FBS squad, and they're making more stadium improvements. So you can see on the two things. You can see the visitor side bleachers, they're gone. And I remember tweeting, I was like, how much Alabama fans love football? They're willing to sit on concrete steps and watch football, and nobody complained. They did that. And then in the end zone, they had a football facility there, and they're knocked that down. They're building what they call the Loring and Debbie White football complex. It's going to have a players lounge, a club level, a party deck, offices. And last year it was under construction. It will be ready for the beginning of the 2024 season. And, for me, this is my shot of the night. It's the best photo. I try to time it out with, the sunset going down. But you got two things that you want to have better. You want to have those bleachers on the visitor side, and you want that complex complete. So I think they have a standalone Conference USA weeknight game. I want to say October either 8th or 9th, and I will go there, and I'm going to try to stand in this exact same spot and duplicate that photo with a more finished stadium.
Yeah, and I should mention that I was in Las Vegas for when they upset Florida State on the final play of the game on like a 60, 70-yard pass, something like that. Absolutely hilarious to be in the sports book with a shit ton of Florida State fans watching that. Yeah, just fantastic. I mean, look, I gotta be honest. I've never been there. You've done a lot more traveling than me for football stadiums, and this is one where your photos helped. If anything, I came up with my top 5 prior to seeing the photos, and then I'm like, all right, this is a lot nicer than I would have imagined. Shout out to them. And I guess what you go while they were building this, or what?
Yeah. So the whole year it was under construction. And we've been in this scenario several times, whether it's a COVID year, whether it's other things where you're going to get the less than perfect experience, but you're always going to take football. So it's a big step forward. There was a larger plan to kind of incorporate the roadside with dorms and all that. That didn't end up happening, but this is going to be a showpiece for, on one side, the lower level, it's going to be the players lounge, and the club level, you walk in and you're going to be impressed. The second level is going to be some high-end suites, but on the back side of it is going to be balconies overlooking the stadium, and it's going to be one of the best vantage points that you can have. So anytime a school is dumping money into improving their facilities, we like it. There were never any seats there, so they're not compromising any seats. And, they have a great fan base. I got to tailgate with those guys in JSU Boomtown. I got to tailgate with them in 2021. And, the kind of the conversation is the same with JMU. As a FCS supporter, you don't want to see teams necessarily jump up when they've had a lot of success. They played in the 2016 FCS National Championship against North Dakota State. But as JMU has done, they jumped up and had a great year right away. Alabama is a big state. It can take a lot of FBS programs. So they're not looking back. They're going forward. And I'm excited to see this project done when I go back there in October.
Yeah, I love the fact you have people watching it from the construction zone.
Man, I'm telling you, like people were sitting on like a rock. They were sitting straight, and nobody complained. And it just made me think of all these times that we see tweets where the concession line is too long, or I can't get to and all the complaining that people do. And these people in Jacksonville, Alabama, are watching a weeknight game, sitting on concrete, and are not saying one word, so that's the South, that's Alabama, and they love football. So, kindred spirits down there.
Yeah. And that's one thing, like I know a college like a real stadium head, when you can go in and talk about, like, if they come in hyping SoFi or Allegiant or Mercedes-Benz, then you're just like, oh God, get me out of this conversation. But I try to remember, at times where I maybe didn't realize all this stuff back when I was younger. And I'd say, okay, well, let's school them a little bit here. You got to go. Oh yeah, that's great. Well, you got to check out this stadium, this stadium, this stadium. But yeah, I mean, shout out to those fans there, just sitting on get this slab of concrete, catch the game. Gotta love it. And what the fuck? It says you're watching it through a tarp.
Yeah. So if you go back to the previous photo, there's a temporary setup with that banner right there. And, we do obstructed view photos from, behind poles. This is like the peeping Tom photo, kind of, where you're this creep guy through the screen. And so, there was a similar at the Frisco Bowl. It was the Scooter's Coffee Frisco Bowl. And in the end zone that they usually have for the championship, they have the bands there. There weren't as many people showing up for the Frisco Bowl as they were for the FCS championship. So there was these big Scooters banners. So I went back there. So I'm not sure that it's going to be like that after the renovation, but when you want a break from sitting on concrete for a few minutes, you're going to go take a photo of yourself creeping on the ASUN Conference Championship banner right there.
Absolutely hilarious. YouTube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. Yes, @StadiumHeadsSGPN. Get on over there. Kennesaw State, Fifth Third Stadium, Kennesaw, Georgia. 14 years old. Seats 10,200. Look, I kind of dig the logo that they got going. I know it. Look, this first shot, when you sent me this, I was like, it looks kind of cold. It looks perfect. It looks like real grass, I think, maybe. I'm not sure.
Real grass.
I mean, I know it's rather small, but who gives a shit? This looks awesome. I like the trees on this shot. I will say that, you look at it here, it looks kind of soccer-ish, like might be the soccer stadium, but look, you're just starting your football program in the past 10 years. I think this place is pretty fire. Am I crazy?
So this was built as a soccer stadium, KSU Soccer Stadium, 2010. It got the name changed to Fifth Third Bank Stadium. So this was built as a soccer stadium and ended up evolving into a dual purpose home for Kennesaw State. One of the big changes that we had in FBS the last couple of years is the removal of the 15,000 seat minimum, since people were fudging the numbers anyways. So, Sam Houston State has 14,000. We're going to get to them. This has 10,200. You can see it's a one-story. So there does look like there's room for expansion, but all those suites that you see behind, I want to say the home side bleachers, those are all set up for soccer. So, when we talked about this with UTSA, we talked about this with Charlotte. When you have a young program, you're trying to make your way, and how quickly they have gone up in the ranks. I mentioned that in 2021, I saw them play a second round playoff game at TSU. They were like 11 points with under 2 minutes, and they ended up losing that game, but they were very close to being in the semifinals. And then, they did their transition year last year, and now they're jumping up. And so I haven't been there for a game. As I mentioned, I was holding on because I knew the opportunity would come up this year on a weekday, which we're going to go to, but I will have to reserve judgment as far as what I think about the game day atmosphere and all that. But it's set up in a way that everything is close to the field. I watched, there was a screenshot from the college football game coming out, and they showed Kennesaw State, and the fans are right on top of the field. So is it perfect? No, it's not on campus. It's low in capacity, but again, they're making a quick jump up to FBS. The money is going to increase now that they're in an FBS conference, and hopefully you win and you have more TV money and you can do more things with your stadium situation. And we know for a fact, as we mentioned with Jacksonville State, Alabama fans are crazy for football. Georgia fans are crazy for football. West Georgia just went up from D2 to FCS and took Kennesaw State's spot. So, yeah, I'm definitely excited. It's weird to have a stadium that I haven't been to for a game. And so I get to open my present in October.
Yes, for sure. And Brian Bohannon's been there. Look, he was with Paul Johnson at Georgia Southern, Navy, and Georgia Tech. And they run that. Well, he doesn't go full flex bone. He does the pistol option, but it's still a lot of fun. And if you think, like, some people I know have talked trash about them joining, I mean, you don't have to go that far back. They were 11-3 and number 8 in the nation in the FCS in 2019, and their losses were 3 points to an FBS. Yes, they got a 24-point loss to Monmouth, but the other one was a playoff loss at Weber State by 6 points. They damn near went undefeated in a way. This program's been good, man. I know, like, they were in 2021 they were top 10. So 11-2 season.
That's the one I mentioned. I went to the playoff game. Like, they were ahead by 11 or 12 points with under 2 minutes, and they let it get away from. Otherwise, they were going to be in, almost getting to Frisco. So 2019, you're talking about them only having 3 losses, very close, 1 to FBS. COVID year 2020, and then look what they did in the fall of 2021. So the last couple of years, we're going to get into Sam Houston State. Sometimes that transition, maybe you're not going to, maybe you're going to save some of your bullets for the year that you pop out in the FBS. And, we've seen JMU and Jacksonville State just hit the ground running. And then we've seen Sam Houston State struggle in their first year. We'll see where Kennesaw falls, whether it matches JMU success or has a similar transition to Sam Houston. But again, I mean, they're jumping up the ranks very quickly, and they should be very proud of what they've accomplished in a short amount of time.
Hell yeah. And look, I'm a big fan of Bush designs. Look, this is fire. Need this in all sides of the end zones. So yeah, the more artwork you can do with bushes, the better to me. Let's go.
Make it a quote.
Team Bush over here. Team Bush.
It's easy to see a tide turn.
Yes, and then your jumbotron there. These little, it's cool.
And, the yellow pops. You looked at the facade of all the suites, and this. I made multiple visits there. This was somewhere like in December, and it looks cold, and it was cold. But other times you go to a September game in Georgia, it's going to be hot. So I think that mid-October weeknight game that I'm going to go to, I think it's going to be perfect weather, and hopefully they could get a good crowd there. Because I know somebody that's a traveler that is specifically going to week 1 to see the first FBS game Kennesaw State ever play. So for a lot of people who haven't been there, or they are trying to get to every FBS school, Kennesaw is going to be a destination in 2024.
Hell yeah. Next up, we are going to, you want to talk about on the come up. I remember Pittsburgh Steelers tight end, Eric Green. Back in the 80s, you would get your sports cards, your football cards, and they would have the rookies. Eric Green. I remember he came out the same year as like Barry Sanders and all those other guys, right? So it's like you would see, you'd see Dion in like a crisp photo, right? And you're like, damn, the Florida State helmet's popping. You'd see the next guy, whoever it was, Eric Metcalf at Texas or something. You get to Eric Green, it looked like the photo was done from like a camera in 1952. You're like, what in the hell? Eric Green was from Liberty. I think he was somewhat a high round draft pick, but he was very good.
It's very funny because I was watching, me and you go on YouTube and watch old games. Probably like 4 days ago, I watched 1992 playoff game divisional Buffalo at Pittsburgh. And it was the game after the 35-point comeback where the Bills beat the Oilers, and it was the game after that, and it was in Pittsburgh, and Buffalo obviously won, and they went to the Super Bowl. But Eric Green was one of the tight ends, and we're talking 92. Liberty started their program in 1989. So these old photos, the guy was like 6'5", 285 tight end, and this is not like the days of now where everybody is just bigger. He's 290 in 1992, and he he was athletic, and he had good hands, and he had a couple of really good years for Pittsburgh. So it's funny that you bring that up, because I saw the same thing. Draft pick from Liberty University. I'm like, man, we know who Liberty is, but imagine watching that game in 1992. You're like, what? So yeah, I echo your sentiments as far as another program. I mean, Kennesaw is going quick, but Liberty has had success on the fast track.
I'm gonna try to show the folks what I mean here, because this is what I mean. Is like the program. It's like it all of a sudden just threw a bunch of money into their maybe their university in general, but their football program and their basketball program has been fantastic too, and even their baseball program is not bad. And you look here,
the stadium opened in 1989 and only had 12,000 seats. So imagine now it has double that, 25,000. It's actually expandable to 60,000, and so they had forward thinking when they built the stadium. But when you're talking about modest beginnings, we're talking about 1989 founding a program and are getting a stadium and then having only 12,000 seats. So there you go. Oh, that's the score. I know exactly what you're talking about, because there's like a Barry Sanders face photo. There's Dion. Yeah, and I know exactly
you would see like some of the college photos look great, and you're like, I remember as a kid being like, what the fuck is Liberty? And I was even in the state of Virginia at one point as a kid. So it's like, I was like, huh? Like they get this from like a rec league game. What's going on here? there's no logos on anything.
I love it. I love it.
But yeah. And look, I mean, they don't even see stands behind them. It's like they went to a practice and took a photo of them. But that's what the program probably was back then. And now you look at what they got going now. It's something special. Like I said, I've done their pods. I'm actually like, this is what's great about college football. I had Dan Wetzel on the show not that long ago, and on the College Football Experience show, and it was fantastic, because he went on a spiel about that's what he goes. They're trying to change college football. We like the fact that you have religious institutions mixed in with private institutions, mixed in with gigantic public institutions. That's part of the fun of the sport. So a team like Liberty just all of a sudden saying, we're going all in on football and basketball. I love it. And I think it's great for the sport.
We got military academies mixed in there too.
Yeah, everything. So. You throw all that together, it's the greatest fucking thing on the planet. And look, I look at this stadium too. I don't know when they built that brick building. Maybe you do, but it looks pretty fire to me.
Yeah. So that was, I don't know. It was in the mid 2000s. Let's say that. And so this stadium has evolved. I remember, so I went to 2 games, as I mentioned, last year. So the first time I went there was 2019, and all that in the end zone was not finished. At least the video board was not finished. And then last year I got the opportunity to go to 2 games, and they're great fans too. I mentioned on the Sunbelt show, I went to the 2020 Cure Bowl, and during COVID, they made at Camping World Stadium, they made both fan bases sit on the same side. And that was one of the most venomous games I can remember. Coastal was undefeated. Liberty blocked a field goal in overtime, won it. Their whole team ran over to the Coastal bench and waved bye to them. And it just was the good kind of hostile that you like. And then for the Conference USA Championship, I remember taking a video 2 hours before the game, and I just walked for about 45 seconds. The line of students trying to get into the game 2 hours before was lined up out the door. So, one of the advantage that used to be the old home side. You could see where it says Liberty, and then they switched and they put that bigger press box on the other side. But, one of the beauties that we've mentioned about G5 schools playing their conference championship game on campus, you win, go to the photo you were just at, you win, you lock up an undefeated season, go to the rut, and you get to rush the field, So 4 of the 5 G5 conferences play their conference championship game on campus. The only one is the MAC, and I know why they don't play the MAC, because it's cold, but we don't care about that. But this is the kind of thing that you get to do. So last year, if you followed Liberty football, You got to see them have the best season they've ever had in their program history. Their first year in an FBS conference, because they were independent before that. They host the conference championship game and they win and they rush the field and they got to go play in the Fiesta Bowl. So it's a great time to be a Liberty Flames fan. And again, as I mentioned, this stadium is expandable to 60,000. So, I'm thinking of like Dr. Evil, Wayne's World type thing. Like, they're not done. They want more. And you win a couple more, have a couple more years like you did last year. Damn, whatever, people think, like you mentioned about religious, or they're going to want them in because they're big time football.
Oh, the storm is coming. I can't wait. Liberty's just getting started. I'm on board. Let's go. Anytime you get the storm, the field, it's awesome. That is college football. Don't let these idiots try to tell you otherwise. All right.
And one more thing. Coach Chadwell came from Coastal, and it was his first year at Liberty and went undefeated. And Coach Doyle is there, and Coach Korn, I know these guys, and so I was talking to Coach Doyle before at the Sam Houston game when they were 5-0, and I was like, "How do you like to transition? I know it's different from Conway, Myrtle Beach," and he said, "We're undefeated and we have nothing in place. Our guys have been in this system for 5 games. We don't have our players. Everybody learning the playbook, and they still win 11-0. No, we've talked about the strength of schedule, and we know that it's they're on the lower end as far as the competitiveness compared to the Sun Belt and the Mountain West. That being said, a guy comes in his first year, goes undefeated, and they don't even have anything in place. So it's another thing to kind of express that they still have way more room to grow."
Yeah, and I think it's hard for teams like Liberty that teams don't want to schedule them. I think I read an article from their athletic director saying something like that, and they won at Baylor with Turner Gill, I believe, is their head coach. They went to Baylor and won, and I believe their first year or maybe their last year in the FCS, one of the two, they won a game at Baylor there at some point. So
they beat
teams,
BYU at home a couple of years ago, 1 or 2 years ago. Yeah, they killed BYU.
So that this program's only going to go up. Obstructed view alert. YouTube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. What are we working with here? What's our percentage?
I mean, this is about 17%. But what's funny is if you go back to that previous photo, like those are suites, and so you get this guy peeking in there a little bit, and it might be uncomfortable for them, and I'm just going to stare and try to make it as uncomfortable as possible for them. So they're in the heat and they got the food platter served to them. I'm cold. It's December. It's a Friday night in Virginia, and I'm peering in there like, okay, I got a credential, but I didn't get a suite access. Can you help me out? And they didn't. They just turned their back on me, as you can tell. So I was shunned, and so we got to document the obstructed view. But yeah, there's dual ones. There's one on either side of those, and even a great up and coming stadium like Williams Stadium is going to have a small imperfection.
Yeah, and yeah, love it. Love that area of the grass too with the logo. Big fan of this. Big fan of what they're doing here.
And that's part of the expansion. So right now it's at 25,000. The next bullet they could shoot is filling that in with seats that would add another 5,000. But right now what they have is these outdoor suites that you can rent and use per game. And there's a little bit of a balcony thing. And then, they got the grass, a little bit of berm that you can stand on. And, this is not like you go to a place and the grass is dead and you can stand on it. It looks brown. Like Liberty is going to make sure that it looks crisp and green and nice. And you can tell that way, or it's that way in the photo.
Yeah. And look at that fireworks show. Damn, dude, that's impressive. They're not messing around, dude. They are going to be, you want to talk, I mean, short of SMU and Liberty kind of are like I think some of the more if you're looking at college football from a bird's eye view, as far as not situationally, not game by game, but if you were looking almost like a graph over the past 50 years of college football, with all the teams involved there in D1 and FBS, you'd be sitting there circling Liberty, circling well, I think circling SMU soon too, but those two schools, man, they got the money too to go toe to toe. I love their future. I'm excited for their future.
And I will tell you, part of the campus tour aspect of this, like walk around Liberty's campus. Their softball field is legit. Their baseball field is legit. They have a club hockey team and they have a nice arena. And I remember after this game, they had a hockey game. I want to say it started at like 10 or 11 p.m. I couldn't even get a ticket. It was sold out on a Friday night, like 11 p.m. So you just walk around the campus and everything is nice. And it's exactly what you're talking about. Like at some point they decided to get really serious about athletics. And I mean, they've hit the gas full speed and we're witnessing it right now.
Grand Canyon, take notes. Grand Canyon, take notes. All right. Next up, we jump to Ruston, Louisiana. Louisiana Tech, Joe Ellett Stadium. 56 years old, seats 28,565. So one of the most dominating performances I've ever seen in my life was, if memory serves me correct, I didn't do homework on this pre-episode. I want to say it was week 0 of 1997 when Louisiana Tech played at Nebraska.
Troy
and
Edwards.
Oh my God, man. He had 405 yards receiving and he had like a 90-yarder called back on a questionable call. Like they threw like a wide receiver screen to him and he broke it for like 90 yards against the number 1 team in the land. Back then, that's not Nebraska now. Like that was Nebraska with Amon Green and Mike Minter and all these guys. Like one of my favorite performances I've ever fucking seen. I love how you know it right away.
That was a money game. That was a money game. Come and lay down and get killed. And that was whack Tim Rattay, because Tim Rattay ended up being on the Niners, so we got to see him for a year or two. But yeah, that game stands out for any. Back then it wasn't G5, but the lower level program going and putting a little hurt on the big boys. I remember that very vividly.
They had like 7 NFL guys on that defense. They couldn't stop this guy. And Troy Edwards went to the NFL. I mean, but Rattay and Edwards both played in the NFL too. But unbelievable performance. La Tech, here's one to me. I can't believe they fired Skip Holtz, because since then, and I understand it was a new athletic director, and that's why you circle that. Whenever a new athletic director comes in, they kind of don't give a shit about the old coach. They went out, they hired Sonny Cumbie, and they've been terrible since. Skip Holtz took them to like 9 bowl games in 10 years or something. I like it when they're better. But they've been struggling. What game was this? And tell me about your travels to Ruston.
So this was a weeknight game last year against New Mexico State. I also went to a weeknight game in 2019 where they played FIU. And I agree. I like the stadium. And, it's tough when you have, let's use Mike Gundy, for example, or Kirk Ferentz. You got guys that are winning 8, 9, 10 games every year, but they're not popping for the big one. And so there's some people are like, well, we got to get another guy in there and get the big one. And then all of a sudden you lose that 9, 10 wins and then you have nothing. Skip Holtz, same kind of thing. So it was disappointing to see the smaller crowd here. They've done a lot of improvements in the stadium, and they have I know that you're big on history. They have a great history, and they have a lot of really famous alumni that they can lean into that history. And but this was last year versus New Mexico State.
Well, my point is like Sonny Cumbie, and look, much love to my guy Mike Leach, rest in peace. And I know Sonny Cumbie comes from that family, but every game I feel like I watch at Louisiana Tech, they lack physicality, and but I mean the stadium looks nice. I love the double. So wait, there's 2 entrances. There's one to each side of the stadium. Is that what it is?
There's a purpose for sending this. So when we did Northern Illinois last week, I talked about how you can't go to the other side of the stadium unless you get like a hand stamp, and then you got to go out onto a public road, walk behind the scoreboard, and then be able to enter on the other side. La Tech, you have to choose which side you want to be on. And I don't particularly like that. I like to roam a stadium, and you have to buy a ticket. And this is like, I mean, I got it like high school. You know, you don't want people to fight, so you put the home people on one side and the road side. But this is Division I football. You should be able to walk around. So, you know, you see on the left side of this picture is that big football facility. At the top of it, they have these balcony seats that are upgraded, and you know, you need special entrance to get there. There's no way to walk over there. And then on the right side, they got the scoreboard with the grass, and they don't allow people on there. So there's no way to access the other side. But you know, I'm sure the argument is you don't want people going to their cars and doing that, but you know, give people a path to do it. So I chose, you know, I like to take the photo with the press box on the opposite side so I can get a good photo. And you know, it was my first trip to Ruston in 4 years, and I had to only go on one side of the stadium. And when I get better access, I can show people on social media all the aspects of the stadium. So I'm pointing this out because I don't like it. Let's play big time football, and let's have a way to, I mean, you can even see right there behind the scoreboard. Let's make a walking path where you can do that.
Look, you pay for the damn ticket. You should be able to go with, okay, maybe not on the field, but you should be able to go around the stadium. Right? I mean, I feel like that's the rule anywhere.
I mean, a couple of weeks ago we did UAB, and I showed the photos from the grand opening of the stadium, and there was a lot of empty seats. It wasn't an empty seats because people didn't show up, is because they wanted to explore. Okay, you want to explore, and so you should give people that opportunity. So there's my small little beef with the setup down there, but otherwise, you know, you showed right here. We talked about the history there, and we've said this in the past where there's a lot of programs who are not capitalizing on the great players or coaches that they have. They have 3 Hall of Famers. You know, 1968, they opened up the season. Terry Bradshaw, I'm going to bring up, this is not meant to be a dig, but they played ECU in their first game, and they won their first game opening the stadium.
Why you sandbagging, son of a gun? No, yeah. No,
35-7, by the way. Anyways, so, and they also have Fred Dean, who is an NFL Hall of Famer, defensive lineman, played for the Chargers and won a Super Bowl or 2 with the Niners in the early 80s. And then you got Willie Roaf, who many people consider one of the best offensive linemen in the stadium. So my first visit in 2019, they had banners behind the visitor side bleachers, which I still believe they have. But they went all in and made this little plaza. There's also, you know, for basketball, there's a Karl Malone. I believe there's a women's basketball player. I want to say Teresa Witherspoon, but I can't remember all the way. But they have these 3 new statues, and they're outside the stadium. But again, they're not accessible from inside there. But this is a G5 school who has legit Hall of Famers, and they did a great job of getting action shots and putting them on display and making a photo destination for fans to visit before the game and after the game. So I love what they did, going from just banners and 4 years later having this nice, cool statue plaza.
Yeah. And I dig the fact that you can score a touchdown. You go to La Tech, I'm going to score a touchdown just like Tim Rattay, Troy Edwards, and Terry Bradshaw did. That is fantastic. And yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see what the future holds with them. Sonny, big year for Sonny Cumbie, because if he doesn't win, I think he's canned. But I like the stadium too, with the exception. I love the band. Got the shot with the band. You know, you got to get the band involved, folks. You got, it's just that's college football 101 right there. How many times you been here, man?
So I've been to 2 games. 2019 FIU. It was a close game, and FIU kicked an onside kick, and they were trying to, you know, get the ball and win, and La Tech recovered the onside kick and took it back for a touchdown and just squashed them right there. This was against New Mexico State last year. New Mexico State was on a roll, you know, and they had, you know, in that year they played in the conference championship at Liberty. They beat Auburn in a money game at Auburn. They killed them. So they were a very powerful team, and, you know, they came in and they did their thing against La Tech. But, you know, shout out to the band. I can't tell you how many games I've been to where it's a weeknight and the crowd is small and the band does not let up. They go the whole time. So, you know, a traveler who has been to, there's something about, I don't know how to explain it, but there's something about being at a blowout in a small town on a weeknight. And it's just, you just kind of, you just get this feeling of like you're a traveling man, and the only people that are there that like are doing the same there and they're invested the same way as you a lot of times is the band. So shout out to all the bands and everybody gutting out the game.
The band is one of the elements of what makes college football great. You know, if you do your history, my mother surprised me. She came out, my son was born in January. So she flies out to LA to meet her grandson. She brings me a vinyl. I have a record player and like a bunch of records. I'm a big music junkie of the Buffalo Bills marching band in the 1940s. She said she found it at a thrift store or something or somewhere. So maybe it was someone's house, a friend of hers house that, but I'm like, what? And then folks, if you do your history on this, the NFL a lot of those teams had bands and they're all gone now. You know what I mean? Even the Redskins band is gone. That was the last, I think. It's a damn shame. I don't know why they would do that, but that's another reason why, to me, like college football, which started the sport, a band should be involved with football. It just goes hand in hand to me. So love college football and love the fact that there's a band. That's an element of the love of college football.
An integral part. Not just, they are important because a lot of times they bring the energy that changes the tide in the game or makes people optimistic when they're not. So, I mean, I can guess why the NFL doesn't have it because they don't want to give away free seats to a band. They want to charge. That would be my guess. But yeah, there's plenty of games where, I've been there and the band plays to the very end and they are important. That's why we get frustrated when we hear stories about, somebody's not letting a band travel to a bowl game or they're not helping pay the cost. So yeah, shout out to the band.
Yeah. And look, I can tell you this as a guy that grew up a Redskin fan in their heyday in the late 80s, early 90s, that shit was awesome. I remember John Madden even broadcast the game saying this stadium's incredible, RFK, because he goes, it's like a college environment. You got the bands, it was blue collar. You can get a ticket for $20. I miss that NFL so much. And I wish if you put me as commish, I'd be like, hey, every team get a band. Let's go. All right. Yep. Anyway, let's continue on. Johnny Red Floyd Stadium. I have been here. 91 years old. I would pay money if I could locate the shirt that I bought 25 years ago at this stadium saying Dwan Hicks for Heisman. Cause I contributed to the Heisman odd, or that they were trying to raise funding to get him. So I bought like a $20 or $30 shirt, Hicks for Heisman. I have no idea where it's at in the world right now. Seats 31,000. Call me crazy. This is one that I love. And this is one that I wonder, we talk programs long-term. They're like 20 minutes from Nashville. At least from my recollection, maybe it's further. I haven't been in 25 years, but
25 miles, something like that. Yeah. Pretty close.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not Nashville, that area. Vanderbilt's never going to win the SEC. All right. Guess what?
Right.
The group of 5 is available. I would rather be Middle Tennessee than Vanderbilt because you can actually Stockstill. I know he's no longer coaching here, but he had like a 10-win season once. You're knocking on the fucking door if you do that again. I dig the stadium. I love the name. I still say this is the best named stadium in the country. There's something about the name Johnny Red Floyd Stadium. It just sounds like I'm listening to like, if you just told me like it's like a mixture of Johnny Walker, like drinking Johnny Walker and or like a Johnny Cash album, it's just like when I picture Johnny Red Floyd Stadium, it's perfect for the state of Tennessee. In my opinion, it's named perfectly for the state of Tennessee. It makes me think of like, oh man, what was Elvis's record label there in Memphis? I'm drawing a blank on it right now. I went and checked it out when I was in Memphis. Sun Studios, something like that. Anyway, it feels like an artist that was working for that fucking that record label. Anyway, I dig this stadium. Tell me about your travels to Murfreesboro.
Well, first of all, how many G5 schools do we have that has a stadium built 1933? I mean, we're talking about 91 years old. and you're going off the pictures and what you're saying. This is an impressive looking stadium, which means they've invested in it and they've upgraded it. At one point, this stadium only had bleachers on each sideline. There was a track. They filled that in 1997. There was a major renovation. It coincided with their leap up to, wasn't FBS at the time, but being into FBS football. And I've been to 2 games there. 2020, they played Troy. And then I went to a night game last year. On a weeknight, they played Jacksonville State. And, you talked about potential for them, proximity to Nashville. This stadium, believe it or not, is expandable to 70,000. So it's only 30,000 right now. You see what's going on at Vanderbilt. It's under perpetual construction, and they removed an entire end zone worth of bleachers. So their renovation, even though they were probably the smallest SEC stadium, they're working on a 2-year renovation project, not to increase it, but to lower capacity. Meanwhile, you have another school here who's about 25 miles outside of Nashville who has a 30,000 seat stadium that's probably going to end up being the same as Vanderbilt, with the potential to go to 70,000. So do we see a day in the next 10 years where it's going to be needed to be 70? No, but it's kind of what you're talking about, where they could be an alternative in the state where recruits can go and actually compete for conference championships. I know it was a year or 2 ago. They beat Miami in Miami. I remember that. So they've accomplished a lot. And, we also talked about how they had them in Western Kentucky discuss jumping into the MAC. Western Kentucky wanted to, and Middle Tennessee wanted to stay, so they ended up staying. So just by those conversations actually happening, it makes you think that they could jump up if a couple things happen, and they have the infrastructure in place with an expandable stadium to accommodate that should that opportunity arise.
Yeah, and I believe they also beat Missouri like in the past 6 or 7 years. And last season, Missouri beat Ohio State, won like 10, 11 games. Missouri barely got past Middle Tennessee. I think it was a 6-point win in Columbia, if memory serves me correct. But this program's proven they can knock off teams before, and yeah, all it takes. I mean, no one saw Boise State. They were a community college in like the early 80s. So it's like this thing can happen overnight. The old press box looks fucking fire. I dig this. This shot specifically, I dig. What they have some. Where is this at, by the way?
So if my saying is, if you act like you belong, right? And so before the game, I was hungry, and so I just walked into the suites, and this is like the press box side, and they had food out and places. This was not. I don't know if the game was either it started or it was a few minutes before kickoff, and so there's not just places to sit with TVs. It's there's a club level, so standard at a lot of stadiums. But again, I mean, this is really nice. So you would, a lot of times you'll look at this and go, oh, this has got to be a Power 5, a P4 school. This is, G5 playing on a weeknight. Looks really nice.
Yeah. Very nice. And then this is another area?
Yeah. So this is outdoor. They kind of made these. So sometimes, if you're not getting 30,000 all the time, then you can convert some outdoor spaces, and these were rentable. You could buy season ticket passes in there. I don't think they were that expensive, and you could actually store stuff there long term. So if you got the season pass, you could bring all your snacks for the entire year and keep it in there, and then each game serve them there, and you can see it's a really good view of the field right behind another band right there. So cool. If you're going to navigate a stadium, you want to showcase all this stuff on social media, get to the indoor suites, get to the outdoor suites, and then go up above and show the panoramic view as well.
Hell yeah. Love the band in the shot. Love Tennessee keeping Cherry 7 Up alive. We are doing it here. And how about this Super Puff cotton candy art? Tell me about this.
So it's the world's largest cotton candy. And I put a video out there. So you see the guy on the left, he spun that thing for 45 seconds a minute, made it huge. And he dropped it on a kid, and the kid, it was 5 times bigger than his head, but his head lit up. So Murfreesboro, Tennessee, world's largest cotton candy, $20 at a game there at Johnny Red Floyd Stadium.
Hell yeah, you got multiple flavors. You can get the fruit punch, the cherry bomb, the Ferris wheel blue, the pink vanilla. What are you doing? Get out to a game at Johnny Red Floyd Stadium and get the damn cotton candy. I don't care if you're a kid or not. If you're an old man, you should get it. That thing is gigantic. Love Johnny Red Floyd Stadium, man, and excited about Middle Tennessee, in their future. The game I went and saw was a conference game against Idaho, and they were in the Sun Belt a long time ago. So, yeah, it's just wild how things. And that's probably why they didn't want to join the MAC. It's like, hey, we've already done this thing recently. So, all right, look, before I get to the next one, I want to tell folks out there that, if you're watching on YouTube, stay put. We're not going anywhere as we continue previewing every school in the Conference USA for 2024. But if you're on the audio side, make sure to check out the B side where we talk about all the other stadiums, including our favorite one. So hop on over there. Once again, Stadium Heads podcast, wherever podcasts can be found. If you get the SGPN app, it's free to download in the App Store and Google Play Store. You'll see us featured there. Also, youtube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. Hit that like and subscribe. You want to get in before we break away. All right. So do all that. And remember, as always, folks, to let it ride. All right. Back on the Stadium Heads Conference USA edition, as we just got done talking Johnny Red Floyd Stadium in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. There's no way you can say that without trying to sound Johnny Red Floyd Stadium. It's like you're in the movie The Outsiders again, but next we go to Aggie Memorial Stadium, Las Cruces, New Mexico, for New Mexico State, 47 years old, seats 28,853 people. We talked about it on the beginning of the A side, where we went through all the teams alphabetically, A through N. But there's some cool stadiums in this conference, and this is one. And you talked about it. I don't know what it is about the state of New Mexico. I just feel like at some point I should live there, and I dig the state a lot. I really do. And this is one of the places where I haven't been here, but your photos, I just say, oh yeah, I want to go. I've been to Las Cruces. I just haven't been to a football game. I dig this stadium. Tell me about your travels here, man.
Yeah. So New Mexico is the land of enchantment. And when you go there and you get on the airport shuttle to the rental car, you'll hear it. You'll hear that messaging all the time. So I agree with you. There's some about New Mexico. And I got to go to University of New Mexico last year for Black Friday, but Las Cruces, I've been there for one game, but I've done multiple stadium visits, and getting to, it's underrated as far as the views. Built in 1978, 28,000 seats, 3,980 foot elevation, so 4,000 feet. Aggie Memorial, we talk about all these stadiums that have memorial in the name. This was built in 1978, so it's not dedicated to, World War I, World War II. It's dedicated to Vietnam and Korea War veterans, which is cool because, it seems like there was a movement away from Memorial Stadium, probably, 60s. And this is one that stayed to the name and honored a different set of veterans. So we love that. Battle of I-10, they have 45 miles separate them in El Paso. And so the game I went to was in a couple of years ago was, like I said, the 99th Battle of I-10. UTEP came there it was a week 0 opener, and it was rocking. It was a great crowd. One thing I'll never forget is they tailgated and they had wrestling going on, and they were dressed up like as Rey Mysterio, and they had an actual ring in the parking lot, and it was crooked. So there was a crooked ref, and there was one wrestler who was assigned as like the New Mexico State guy, and there was one as the UTEP guy. And so the UTEP guy slams the New Mexico State wrestler, and he jumps on him to pin him, and the ref goes a real slow 1, 2, and then the guy jumps off. And then later in the action, the New Mexico State guy slammed the UTEP guy, and he runs over and he goes 1, 2, 3, and he counts them out real quick. And it was just, I never seen anything like that at a college football game. So it's cool. I recommend people going there and checking it out. This was the only one I didn't go to last year. I went to 8 of the 9 Conference USA schools, and they have a game. I want to say October 15th. October 15th. New Mexico plays a Tuesday night game, and then the next day UTEP plays a Wednesday night game. And I'm going to be a pig and slop going to those 2 games.
Dude, this shot is beautiful. Like, this stadium is underrated, man. Am I crazy? I like the press box. I like everything about it. Like, I see nothing negative about this stadium right here.
And it's a sunken bowl too, which is a little bit like old style. Let's let the earth be the perimeter of the stadium. So I agree. I mean, I would we talked about Coach Kill having good year. I didn't get a chance to go last year, but I did go to that season opener 2 years ago, and it was a great crowd, a great place to watch a game.
Yeah, and look, I mean, we'll see what happens with Sanchez now as the head coach. Kill's gone, but hey, I like when they're good, man. Like, I only wish Kill would have stayed, but for whatever reason, whether it was health or whatever, but I like this thing, man. I think it's a great stadium. I think it's underrated. And there's something about New Mexico State football and basketball. I kind of just enjoy when they're good. I think college football is better when they're playing better.
And in 2017, they had a good year and they played in the Arizona Bowl. And I went to that game, and in overtime, their running back, Larry Rose, who had a great college career, he scored a walk-off 30-yard touchdown to win the game. And it was the first bowl win in 60 years for New Mexico State. So that was cool to just get that. Like, that was one of the biggest moments of modern day New Mexico State football history. And it didn't happen in this stadium, but not too far away in Tucson. So that was kind of like the kickstart to legitimacy. We also talked about how a couple of years ago, there were several independents, and Liberty joined this conference as an independent, and New Mexico State was an independent. And a lot of people thought they may not even be able to hang in FBS. Maybe they should go down to FCS, and look what they did. A huge bowl victory, first time in 60 years, played in the conference championship last year, and no one would look at New Mexico State football now and go, man, they belong to FCS. So they made a lot of good strides even in the last 5 years.
Yeah, they've beat Auburn, and I don't know if it was 5 years or 10, 6 or 7 years. They beat Minnesota at Minnesota as well. Love this. Look, they're better. Fred Young makes me think. Remember that old Seahawks linebacker went to a bunch of Pro Bowls in the 80s. He's a graduate of New Mexico State. The stadium's fire. I only hope that they continue
back there a little bit.
Yeah,
you see that,
dude.
Yeah.
That area of the country's cool, man. I'm telling you. Like, I did a stand up from there to El Paso back to back days. Or actually, I think my hotel was staying in El Paso, and I had to drive and then drive back. But it was just cool. It's a cool little area. Something about the desert. I've been lobbying on the college football experience. Desert football is pretty awesome, and I feel like there's only 8 teams that qualify. Like UNLV when they're at Sam Boyd, Arizona State, Arizona, Texas Tech, and then New Mexico's and UTEP. And that's your conference. Maybe if Southern Utah can, maybe if Southern Utah can get it together, they could be a part of it. But I like that. Something about desert college football. UTSA, if they go,
Arizona.
If come on, it's just something cool about it. I love the stadium, man, though, and I dig that shot. I even dig once again the bush life. Surviving in Las Cruces. I see the bush life. It's not, a ton of bushes, but you're in the middle of a fucking desert. So, I mean, okay. Win right there. What, tell me this story here. I was wondering are these UTEP fans?
No. So as I mentioned in the beginning, for this game, I won an auction. Somebody had sent me a link, and it was win 2 tickets to sit in the president's booth. And so on the right, you see the back, that's President Wilson. She's president of UTEP. So I didn't get to go into New Mexico, but I want to say for $175 for a ticket, I got to sit in there. And I will tell you, I stayed in there only for a few minutes because, yes, I understand the dynamic that you have a guest in there and you're going to entertain them and you'll have conversations. But this was the season opener and this was very important to them. And I didn't want them to have to like entertain me or schmooze with me. So I introduced myself. When we went through the list of my recent travels, you said there's a lot of UTEP on there. I have run into the athletic director, Jim Center, at several games. We know each other. He's given me a tour of the renovated Sun Bowl. I've told him, how much I love the Sun Bowl. So for me, it was more of like, I want to meet these people. I want to tell them how much I love the Battle of 10, a Battle of I-10 rivalry, and have a little story, man. Like, so, you could go. I wanted to go to Notre Dame, Ohio State last year, and the cheapest ticket was $575. So I didn't go. I ended up going to Florida, playing Charlotte. It was $24. I really wanted to go to the game. It was one of the best games of the year. So for $175, you can see the Battle of the I-10, and you get to meet the president and the athletic director. I thought it was well worth it.
Hell yeah. Love it. Love the stadium too. Love that rivalry. Let's go. Folks, before we get to our next school, I want to tell you, yes, you are listening to the Conference USA Stadium Heads podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. And the Sports Gambling Podcast is getting ready for college football season with their brand new conference preview episodes that I'm on all of those. So check that out. Tune in wherever you get your podcast or the SGPN app, which is free to download in the App Store and Google Play Store. Remember, as always, folks, to let it ride. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Pick 8's now live. Create entries with up to 8 picks, and Underdog will automatically double flex entries. So you can miss up to 2 picks and still win your entry with more picks to make and extra ways to win. The excitement is higher than ever. And the best part, you can win up to 325 times your original amount. And you can now use specials and boost on all flexed entries. I can't wait to check out Pick 8 when college football season drops, because they got college football. I'm doing CFL now. College football, college basketball, they got it all. Don't miss your chance to try it out before it's gone. Sign up, and when you do, sign up with the promo code TCE SGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code TCE SGPN. We're also brought to you by Circa Survivor and Circa Millions. Yes, I was just at Mountain West Media Days in Las Vegas at the Circa. It's the greatest sports book in the world. Circa Sports is back with Circa Survivor and Circa Millions, giving away $16 million in guaranteed prizes. And of course, Circa contests have no rake. Circa Millions, pick 5 NFL teams ATS each week and compete for the $6 million prize, or survive the NFL gauntlet to claim the $10 million prize. Sign up in person at Circa Sports between now and September 7th and use a proxy to play from anywhere. We even have a deal with footballcontestproxy.com to save you $50 with the promo code SGP. So hop on over there. And look, if you don't have your trip booked yet for Las Vegas before football season, may I recommend Ultimate Contest Weekend? It's a great time to hang out. And if you do go out that weekend, you can hang out with my pals, Ryan Real Money Kramer and Sean Stacking the Money Green from the Sports Gambling Podcast, and enjoy some of the open bar events at the greatest sports book in the world, August 22nd through August 24th. All right, we are back on the Stadium Heads Conference USA edition. And next up, we go to Sam Houston State, Elliott T. Bauer Stadium, Huntsville, Texas, 38 years old, seats 14,000. Tell me about your travels down here to Huntsville, because first off, the stadium it's kind of cool because it's like there's hills everywhere, but it's also like just kind of interesting in a way. Tell me about your travels and tell me about this venue.
Yeah, so I've been to 2 games there. One was when they were still in FCS, 2021 playoff game versus Montana State. And then obviously they joined Conference USA last year. They had a weeknight game versus UTEP, and I went there. And, the 2021 game, they went undefeated in the spring season and won the national championship. Then they went undefeated in the fall regular season and hosted the first quarterfinal with a bye. And I happened to show up to the only game they lost the entire year. So, bad luck there, but that Montana State team, they were really good. They ended up going and beating South Dakota State in the semifinal, and they played North Dakota State in the championship. So that was no shame in losing that game. And if you play 22 games in a calendar year, you're probably going to get tired versus other teams. And then last year went to a weeknight game. I want to say they were 0-7. So, we talked about Jacksonville State having a good transition first year from FCS into Conference USA. Sam Houston had more trouble, and they had a down year. But the stadium it's interesting because it was built in 1986, so it's not old, but it's not particularly new. It is sloped in the same way that you saw Aggie Memorial in New Mexico State, but there's no end zone seats. So you just walk up a hill, you walk down a hill, you can go to the other side. The big eyesore with this stadium is it has a track. And, we saw Eastern Michigan fill in their track with the turf. We talked about it last week with the donation from Max Crosby. So we only have Buffalo, Sam Houston. There's a partial track at Hawaii, and there's a partial track at Nevada. So we're almost out of them. But there has been talk, and I'm not dialed in all the way about stadium renovations, but I think, feel very strongly that D1 FBS schools should not have a track. So hopefully there's a movement towards there. But, Houston, the state of Huntsville and the state of Texas, they love football, and they had a lot of success under Coach Keeler. And I would not be surprised if they had a huge jump up in the standings this year in their second year in Conference USA.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you watched this team last year, they were better than their record. First off, they won 3 of their final 4 games. But if you look at how many 1-score games, so they had BYU on the ropes in Lavelle Edwards Stadium. It was 7-0, and Sam Houston State had the ball inside their 20-yard line or 15-yard line. They did end up throwing a pick in the end zone, but that was in the fourth quarter, man. And then you look at the Air Force game; they lost 13-3. Jacksonville State, they lose in overtime to Rich Rod. They had the ball at the 1-yard line or something against Liberty. They lose by 5 at Liberty. They did lose to, Houston whooped their ass. But besides that 14-point loss to New Mexico State and Jerry Kill, a double overtime loss to FIU, a 3-point loss to UTEP, a 5-point loss to Western Kentucky. They're there. They're close, man. They're closer than what that record just gives off. But yeah, I mean, got to ditch a track. And Josh McCown is one to watch because he played here after he was at SMU. He transferred to Sam Houston State, and he is in the coaching ranks, I believe, in the NFL right now. So just keep an eye. And not that look, Casey Keeler's a good coach, so I don't want anything to happen to him. But I'm saying you got some alums that are out there coaching. You never know. You never know what can happen. So I kind of dig the jump up, but yeah, we got to give. And what are we looking at here?
So this was Halloween in Huntsville, or not Halloween. It was because I went to maybe it was Halloween. It was Halloween in Huntsville, and someone snuck a inflatable penis costume into the stadium, and at some point went into the bathroom, and I saw it all unfold in front of my eyes. All I saw was somebody walk by me in a penis costume. They walked down to the bottom of the bleachers, and everybody was photographing and filming it. And within 30 seconds, somebody with a Sam Houston collar shirt was escorting the person out of the stadium. And
oh, come on!
I took a. Yeah. What is that South Park tweet? I thought this was America, right? I thought this was America. Yeah. But I took a video of it, and Barstool picked it up, and I just said something like "Wild Night in Huntsville," and it was this guy. I don't know if you have the video or if you put it. I
got it right here. I got it right here. Yeah. Here we go.
Let's play the video.
Here we go. It's loading right now.
So
Gentry on the carry for the Bearcats.
He's getting hit in the leg by Festivals, which is hilarious.
Gets up to the 38-yard line, second down and 7.
This kind of hurts the stadium experience to me when you do that. Come on, you're in college. Showing up with a dick costume is funny.
I'm
sorry, that would not happen at ECU. You know what I mean? Like, come on, let the people stay in the game. Anyway, yeah, I mean, fantastic, but yeah, anyway, I think Sam Houston needs to fix that first. Fix that, then we'll show up there a little bit more, and maybe I'll wear a fucking I'll get the penis costume going. Let's go. Yeah. Next up, we should just do a ton of content on this stadium. But before I do that, I do want to tell you folks out there that the Conference USA season preview episode is brought to you by Rhythm. If you're betting on player props, then you need to download Rhythm. Rhythm is the go-to sports betting tool that transforms complex data into actionable insights, empowering bettors with smarter, data-driven decisions. Unlike other platforms, Rhythm combines advanced predictive analytics with an intuitive user experience, making betting both easy and enjoyable. Rhythm's predictive models were born from the brains of MIT data scientists and quants with over 3 years of data that help drive you to better AI-backed betting decisions. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. All right. Back on the Stadium Heads podcast, Conference USA style. And my favorite stadium, your favorite stadium, our favorite stadium, the Sun Bowl. I know we're revealing our hand on like our top 5, but this stadium, I would just say it's like, to me, if I had to go to another planet and explain the sport of football and our locations of where to play games, I would be saying, oh, we have this thing called the Sun Bowl. It's in El Paso, Texas. And it's fucking gorgeous. All right. In my opinion, the college football playoff should be held there every year. You know, like one of the final, if you're going to do neutral sites, why not? Look at this fucking stadium, and this is at night, so you don't even see all of its beauty, but it doesn't get much better to me. I know you're on my, yeah, I know you agree with me, but tell me about your travels and what makes the stadium so great.
So it's my favorite stadium in college football. My dad played there twice as an opponent at University of Pacific. Last year I did Conference USA. They started a podcast called Conference USA Insider. I was the first guest that they had, and they clipped me talking about the Sun Bowl. You know, it's 4,000 foot elevation. It's carved. A lot of the bleachers in the stadium are carved into the mountain. It's called the Franklin Mountain. Interstate 10 runs behind the stadium. On one side is America and El Paso. On the other side is Juarez, Mexico. During the day, you can see the valley, and when you're looking out beyond the scoreboard there, you're looking into a foreign country. The Sun Bowl bowl game is the second longest running bowl game in college football behind the Rose Bowl. You know, growing up and going to older stadiums in California, there was something with the older concrete, like the Candlestick and the Qualcomm. And this is like, drop one of those into the perfect isolated mountainous view location, and you get the Sun Bowl. And, you know, El Paso has always got warm weather. You go to a night game, you don't need a jacket. You're walking around in a t-shirt. You can walk around the whole stadium. They've done upgrades recently, took out about 5,000 seats, and they put these outdoor suites. But really, I mean, if I think your analogy about explaining it, if you were in space, this is how I define what I like from a stadium. And I've done podcasts, I've done interviews, and, you know, they always want you to rank things. And when they ask what my favorite stadium is, and I say the Sun Bowl, they'll go, I would have said 45 other stadiums. Well, this kind of leans into the definition of being a stadium head. And that is, you see pictures, but the only way that you know how you feel about it is you go in person. And I went for the first time in 2017. They played Arizona on a Friday night, and they got beat by 50. And it took 5 more years for me to get back. And I started to like doubt myself. I'm like, do I really feel that way? And then the last 2 years, I saw them in 2022 beat Boise. And then last year, it was the 100th Battle of I-10, and it solidified it for me. So it's my favorite stadium. I would love to go there every year. I'm so grateful that Conference USA is playing on a weeknight. And as I mentioned with New Mexico State, they have a Tuesday night game in October, and then the next night is in El Paso. And even though I got to try to make it to Virginia Tech on a Thursday, which is going to be very difficult, it's well worth it.
I'm going to back you up and say it's the best stadium as well. It's so underrated and so underappreciated. I don't know. Everything you said was fantastic, but I'll say like, it's like The Hills Have Eyes, put a football stadium. You know what I mean? If you've seen that movie, it like the you could have like a fucking coyote howling, and you know what I mean? Like it's perfectly placed in these mountains, and it looks fantastic. Now I didn't go to a game here. I went to the stadium because I was doing stand up there, and it was I hadn't even thought of like, hey, let me go. I was just going there to do stand up, and I saw right from the freeway, you can't miss it.
Yep.
And I go, I need to check this out. And I'm like, so I just went there randomly, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, something like that. And I just walked. I was able to get through. It was wide open to me. And I don't know if that's changed or not, but I just thought it's super gorgeous. The bowl game's fantastic. I'll add on to the fact, I know you said great weather, but I remember I was at Washington State, Miami a few years ago in the bowl game. Was in the snow. Also in the 80s, Oklahoma State and West Virginia played in the game in thick snow in the stadium. There's something about this stadium that I just think, it's the best just because it's so unique. It's so unique. Everything about it is classic. Now here's what I want to see though. I believe Scotty Walden might be the guy to finally bring it home, because for a while, I don't understand. If you go to El Paso, it's a gigantic fucking city. Like they have a ton of human beings there. It's bigger than what you think. I don't understand. And I say this for basketball. How the hell are they not better? They had Tim Hardaway and Antonio Davis in basketball, and in football, like they got this awesome venue. The town is so far removed. It's in Texas, but nothing is close. So like, okay, you might be Dallas Cowboy fans, but that's fucking really far away, right? This could be their meal ticket, football and basketball. All you need is a winner. All you need is a winner to come in there and ignite this thing. And that's what I hope Scotty Walden does. I saw him at a basketball game painted in orange. I love his energies, and I think he's a good coach. I liked what he did at Austin P. Maybe this is the guy. So it doesn't get much better with this stadium to me. It's just,
I don't usually, I don't try to use a platform to leverage anything, but, I've talked to Jim Center, the athletic director, in person. Danny Garcia is there. I did the podcast with Sarah Rudolph with the CUSA. I want to form some kind of official affiliation with the Sun Bowl. If I'm this stadium guy and people, respect my opinion and travels, and, you and I, we're saying this is our favorite stadium, I want to be able to do something for the Sun Bowl. And you mentioned Coach Walden. I followed him on Twitter. He follows me on Twitter. He was at Austin P before that. He was at Southern Miss before that. He always is in tune with what's going on in social media and trying to get, and I feel like that there can be some kind of connection made. So when I go to these games in October, I'm going to have a full day on a Tuesday before I have to go to the night game in Las Cruces. And I have a full day on that Wednesday when I go to UTEP. And so I'm going to be in El Paso for 48 hours with, a small, a platform with a decent amount of followers to try to prop up and do everything I can. And so, I've mentioned it directly. I've mentioned it in passing, and I would love for something like that to materialize, because I would say that the only thing that is missing on my bucket list for the Sun Bowl is a sold out game. And I feel like, you were mentioning the bowl games, but that's Christmas Eve and that's not UTEP, so I would love, and you should still go to that game because it's one of the best bowl games there. but I would love to be at one of these sold out, whether it's the Battle of I-10, whether it's we mentioned that the Conference USA hosts the conference championship. Can you imagine the Conference USA championship played in the Sun Bowl? That would be crazy. So, and then the last thing, I want to just go over the top and exaggerate, but I'm not even really exaggerating. Like, I joke that I want my ashes spread a little bit in every FBS stadium, or you can just take a shortcut and dump me in the Sun Bowl and I'll be cool.
Yeah. I mean, perfect destination. I mean, look at this shot, man. Look at this. Shout out to LFG in the chat. Mike Price is who he's referring to, that was coach there that got them to some bowl games. But still, my point that I'm trying to make, Michael, is El Paso has more people in it than Las Vegas, than Boston, than Detroit, than, Atlanta. It's a top 25 populated city in this country. And all it needs is a winner. And I argue this in basketball too, basketball and football. Like I've done stand up there. Like it's a fun drinking town, believe it or not. Like it's incredibly affordable to go out and drink. I don't understand how it's not huge. I don't understand how they don't have, like, to me, if you want to talk about, we've seen UTSA come up out of nowhere, right? We've seen TCU jump up to power conference, and Houston as well. I don't understand what's getting in the way of UTEP, because for basketball and football, they should be a powerhouse. Like I said, there's not really anything close to them. So I would think that fans, all you have to do is build a winner, and that many people, with that many people in your town, you would think that they would just go just because it's the thing to do. Everything else is far away. So yeah, I'm perplexed, but this stadium's incredible, man. It doesn't get much better. It doesn't get better. I don't understand how this doesn't get like a national championship. I really don't. You should.
Yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't have. We talked about the last on-campus national championship game was at Arizona State in 2003. So, we've mentioned many times that we like the first round games being hosted on campus. The chance that a G5 is going to host one of those is going to be pretty remote for a while. But that being said, again, the Conference USA championship is a perfect opportunity. If you build a winner to host that game, there's not tie-ins for UTEP to play in the Sun Bowl, but that would be awesome if they could play in their own place. But this is the definition of being a stadium head, is to go somewhere that's a little bit off the grid and have an open mind and walk in there and don't have a preconceived notion and see what you think. And this is a place that, in my opinion, you've been there, and this will exceed your expectations. The location is awesome. It's on campus. You can literally walk from the campus right there, and it's just built in the mountains. So, even looking at the bleachers, you can see the ingenuity that was made to fit the bleachers, and they're literally carving mountains up. So, we see that at Arizona State, at Sun Devil Stadium. It's not 100% unique, but they're not going to do anything like this. And, we've talked about when we look at BYU and you go, well, we know why they built a stadium there because of the backdrop of the mountains. And you look at App State, you know why they built a stadium there. And you look at Washington, and you know why you built Husky Stadium there. When you look and you go to the Sun Bowl and you see these views of the valley and the mountains and everything, you know why they built the Sun Bowl there. And it's something that your bucket list as a college football fan is not complete until you go and see a game there in person.
Yeah. And look, if you're really crazy, like I said, those games are all on YouTube. Some of those old Sun Bowl matchups, or maybe even UTEP games, like the Sun Bowl matchups. I love the Sun Bowl, everything about it. So like I said, whether it's the actual bowl game or just games being played here, it could be a game of badminton. I'd be interested in watching it. Just a great stadium, man. It just doesn't get much better than this. Love this view too. I mean, from the outside, it's just perfect.
And it just shows you that, just because you're older doesn't mean that you can't. I mean, these are improvements. They've done them. And, you talked about going on YouTube. You'll see improvements over the years at the Sun Bowl as well. So there, when I mentioned that Gym Center gave me a tour, they've done some renovations in the press box. There was no air conditioning for a while. They have those. They have private suites, and now they have outdoor private seats. 51,000 for a G5 is huge. So they took out 5 and they built some more premium seats, and this still has 46,000, which is plenty big for there. So yeah, just go to UTEP, go check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And someone's watching Wheel of Fortune. What the hell's going on here?
Well, I mean, we can't be in control of everything at the Sun Bowl. So, somebody's like, okay, I'll go on a weekday, but I cannot miss Pat Sajak's last.
I was going to say,
show.
Sajak even finds his way into the college football world too. That son of a gun.
He's versatile.
Oh man, the stadium is great though. Look at that, dude. I love that aspect of like, you're in the middle of the, like, I think of like, just No Country for Old Men or something. You know what I mean? Like something where it's like you're running in the desert and it's just like you go over this mountain and all of a sudden there's a gigantic football stadium. It's perfect. It's just perfect. There's got to be a shot. What's that?
And what I was going to say is I didn't send you a photo, but right behind there, that mountain right down is Kidd Field, which was the old field that UTEP played on before the Sun Bowl, and they didn't blow it up. They turned it into a track stadium, and it's actually, I think the Conference USA held their track championship there. So before that, they played at El Paso High School, which is one of the top 10 high school stadiums you must visit before you die. It's got this crazy looking like Capitol building with columns. So when you go to El Paso, you can see the whole stadium history and track it. Going back to like it's R.R. Jones Stadium is the high school stadium. So they went from R.R. Jones Stadium to Kidd Field to the Sun Bowl, and you can see that whole century history within, 2 of them on campus and one of them probably like 3 miles from campus. So, spend a day in El Paso and go track 100 years worth of minor football history.
Yeah. And this guy, LFG, said he attended the Stanford Arizona State game there. There you go.
Wow. It might have been Elway's last college game. Maybe.
Yeah.
I know that,
I think so.
The Cal
right?
Stanford the Cal Stanford was the last regular season game. I'm not sure if that was the last bowl game. Probably because he got drafted in '83.
Yeah. That would make sense. There's got to be someone out there though who's seen coyotes right by that top right now. If you're looking, there's got to be. It's just got to be. I'm going to play a video real quick from Michael, youtube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. Here we go. I mean, look at that. Look at that. Got the band going.
And I shot this video because I knew it was going to get dark before kickoff, so sometimes you don't get to time it out, but I remember I did a tweet, and I've done a couple like stadium recommendations for the fall, and I picked, Colorado Mines. I picked that stadium, and I picked South Dakota Mines because it's got the cars parked around it. This is one that you just have to showcase, and that's what that video is all about. You don't have. That video will save you all these words that we've been saying for the past 5 minutes. You just look at that and you're like, okay, I get it.
Yeah. Unbelievable. And obstructed view alert. Yes. Even at our favorite stadium. Once again, this is not.
Yeah.
It's not a blast. We appreciate obstructed view. We're not shitting on you, but anyway, continue what you're going to say.
So this is where they built those outdoor suites there, and they made it an obstructed view. So Cole Kubelik, the ESPN announcer, I met him at the game, and he was about to get in the elevator and go to the press box. And I'm like, hey, Cole, my name is Michael Barker, and I travel to games. And he's like, oh, that's cool. And I was like, oh yeah, and I've done obstructed views. He goes, you're an obstructed view guy? I said, yeah. He goes, are there obstructed views here? And I said, yeah. He says, show me. And so we go down to the spot. I should have sent you the photo, but he said, let's do a shot where I'm blocking you and you can't see the field. So you see him, he's like a former offensive lineman for Auburn. He's standing there in front of me, like 6'5" big guy, and I'm behind him looking at his back like, what's up? You're blocking my view. And so, but this was the view that we got. So it shows you the reach of obstructed views. Had no idea about the stadium travel, but as soon as I said bad seats, obstructed view, he's like, I know who that is. So shout out to him, and we got a good photo op that was pretty cool.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Folks, I see 1,291 people watching this thing. If you can hit that like and subscribe button, we're grateful for you tuning in, but we also want you to get on over there, youtube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. Subscribe if you can. All right. Shout out to LFG who goes, I've seen your obstructed view tweets too. He loves them. There we go. Michael Barker on Twitter @CFB Campus Tour. Give him a follow. Final stadium here. And this logo this is why college football is great too.
Yep.
You don't. Okay. Back to my rant on shitting on the NFL. The Buccaneers used to be, they had the creamsicle uniforms. There was something campy, in my opinion, about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There was something fun about them. When they switched uniforms, they lost that. The Houston Oilers, there was something fun about the Houston Oilers. Even, I hate domes, but I thought if there was one team that should play at a dome, it should be a team running a run and shoot when no one else is running it with awesome uniforms. There was something beautiful and campy about the Houston Oilers. That team no longer exists. That franchise no longer exists. Well, I mean, they do in the Tennessee Titans, but they're no longer cool like that. Right? There's something about owning a hilarious logo. And Western Kentucky is a perfect example of that to me. I hope they never change it because it's hilarious to me. LT Smith Stadium, Bowling Green, Kentucky, 56 years old, seats 22,113. And I love what they do. They own into it. And I love this shot too. Oh, they got the forest. What is that back there? Like a forest? What's going on way on the other side of that end zone?
There's some trees on campus that you can see. So they got those little on the field outdoor suites there. And then beyond there's a little bit of trees. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, they lean into and they do it with basketball too. They lean into their logo and just the fun of it. I think it's great for the sport. I think it's the little things like this make, to me, college athletics so great. Tell me about your travels here. And look, they have the water tower with the guy on it. Once again, when I say leaning into it, and I forget what's the guy's name again.
It's Big Red, and Big Red consistently, he wins every, voting poll for best mascot in college football. They got videos of him dancing on the scoreboard when they play Sandstorm. They got videos of him dancing. He's like kind of like Grimace, kind of McDonald's character, but he's fun. You mentioned NFL teams. Another one that jumps out to me is the Denver Broncos. They had the orange and the blue, and they had the horse there, and they completely changed it because a cooler horse and a darker blue, and they lost that whole thing too. And they still, even when they make uniform adjustments, they still won't fully commit to going back there. And they had an orange crush. It was unique, and that's what people like. So, but yeah, no, it's Big Red, it's Cosmo from BYU. Those are too consistent to get a lot of pub, but it's, and even the mascot, they got the towel from Diddle, the basketball arena that was waved by the coach back in the day. So this is a way where you can do a couple things that differentiate yourself and give you instant recognition. Now, in the beginning of the episode, you were saying, oh, I think it's Bowling Green, Kentucky, and you just wanted to confirm that. Well, people see a picture of Big Red and they know exactly where it is. They know, oh, that's Western Kentucky and that's Big Red and they're the Hilltop. They know that. And so I've been to a couple of games there. I mentioned when we were talking about Middle Tennessee State, I went to the 100 Miles of Hate rivalry in 2019 and 2023. And I also went to a game they played UAB in 2022. I think I sent you a car photo. We can talk about that night. It was pretty interesting, but it's a fun stadium. I mean, it's been upgraded. It started with 19,000 seats. Their record crowd was against Indiana in 2021. They got 25,171, and they've been very successful there. Their all-time record is 199, 98, and 4, which is a 66% winning percentage. So there's a reason why the MAC talked to them. There's a reason why that, they always have a good defense. It seems like they have a very solid team all the time. And they were one of the top. Them and Liberty and Jacksonville State were the top teams in the Conference USA, and I don't really expect it to be any different for this upcoming season.
Yeah, and Jack Harbaugh was there for a long time. Jim Harbaugh's dad, legendary coach, he was there, and and like once again back to like Big Red. Tulane went away from their guy for a long time. They brought it back, and now it's like, hey, this is great. It fits. I love the style of them doing that. LFG gets it too in the chat, but love the water tower. Everything about it is fun to me. It's just fun. And this is what you're referring to, the photo of, shout out to, that looks like it took a lot of work to get a little dragon on a car. UAB logo, youtube.com/@StadiumHeadsSGPN. I'm assuming it got worse after this.
Yeah, supposedly my understanding is they do this for every game. And so this was funny because this was 2022 and Shaquille O'Neal, he DJs in his DJ Diesel. And so they booked DJ Diesel for an hour set before the game. And there was a huge crowd there. So this is a little like grassy area right outside the stadium. And he was supposed to play for an hour. And I think he was supposed to play at 5 and go from 5 to 6. And then the game was starting at 7. Well, he didn't actually go on stage until about 5:45. And it was this interesting little dynamic where he was playing till 6:45 because he was I'm assuming contractually obligated. Meanwhile, the game was starting at 7 o'clock. So even though he's playing and people were there to see him, they wanted to see the game too. So they're migrating on the way. And then if you stand at the top of the stadium, you can lean over and you could still see the set. But they had DJ Diesel going. They had sledgehammer cars going. It was a little bit of chaos there. And so they have a game October 30th. It's a Wednesday, and I'm planning on going back there for the third year in a row.
Hell yeah, man. This is, and what, you flying to Nashville? Is that what you do for that, or is that Cincinnati?
Flying to Nashville. It's about flying to Nashville is about an hour and 30 minutes north, and it's all football there, which is cool.
And there's the Tau logo with the water tower and you with Big Red. It's fun, and I like that they got the railroad tracks next to the water tower too, which is, it's sneaky. It's cool. I mean, it's college football. It's underrated. You know what I mean? Like this, This is like a little thing. And when people talk college football, they talk Alabama and Michigan and Ohio State, it's a big element of college football. But same with this. This is like having little places like this. I love it, and I'll never get tired of it.
Go ahead.
I say I got to get to a game. Continue. Yeah.
Well, I've said this on previous shows that G5 football is the sweet spot of college football. I love FCS. I love P4 just because of the big crowds and what's on the line. FCS, there's a lot of great games and a lot of great schools, but there's something about G5 football where the quality is still very good, but you get that personal interaction. Like, I try to apply for credentials at some P4 schools and they deny it, but I got to go on the sideline and Jared McDonald, shout out to him. He, approved my credential, and, I get to take photos with Big Red, and I get to walk around the stadium. And so they see that, you talked in the beginning about, your experience at Mountain West Media Day. Like, they appreciate the coverage. And so I just like going to these G5 and again, echoing what we talked about earlier, it's very cool that Conference USA decided to take over the weeknights in October. And, we're going to get to go to these places regularly who actually appreciate, what we bring to the table as far as, media people.
Hell yeah. I really, that's at like, believe it or not, Western Kentucky is pretty high on my list as like places I would like to go. Shout out to all the toppers out there, and look at this. Is this where Shaq Diesel, DJ Diesel was playing?
It was lined up, So Shaq coming to Bowling Green, Kentucky, and it was interesting because he just kept saying, "UAB gonna die." He just kept saying that over and over. So. But he got him hyped. But like I said, yeah, if it was from 5 to 6 and the game was from 6 to 7, it would have worked out perfect. But it was from 5:40 to 5:45 to 6:45, and people wanted to be in their seat for the game. So we'll see if Shaq can come back. We want him to come back.
There we go. Next up, he's got to perform the classics: shoot, pass, slam. All right, can't stop the rain. Let's go. Look, folks, that's all of the 10 teams. Obviously, next year, Missouri State and Delaware enter the mix, but we did power rank our top 5 stadiums, favorite 5 stadiums. And with that, Michael, no particular order. He has the Sun Bowl, home of UTEP, Williams Stadium, the home of the Liberty Flames, Burgess Snow Field, the home of Jacksonville State with Rich Rodriguez there. Aggie Memorial in Las Cruces, New Mexico State's home stadium, and LT Smith Stadium right there, Western Kentucky. I wasn't, when you sent me this, I wasn't surprised. If I had to say one that would surprise me, it was Burgess Snow. But once again, your photos kind of, I understand it after seeing the photos. But when you sent me this, I was like, he has that in top 5. I made my list before the photos. So my number 1 is the Sun Bowl, of course. I've kind of already revealed that. 2 is Aggie Memorial. 3 is Johnny Red Floyd Stadium because I love that name and I like the way it looks and I've been there. 4 would be Williams Stadium and 5 would be LT Smith Stadium there in Bowling Green, Kentucky. What your thoughts on my top 5? I know this is all subjective, but I feel like we had 4 of the same ones in there.
Yeah, we have 4 of the same, and you picked Middle Tennessee and I picked Western Kentucky. They could be interchangeable slightly. Sun Bowl is number 1. I really like what Liberty has done at their stadium. I mean, it's become very nice. And we mentioned New Mexico State, the setting, the Sunken Bowl, the views. It's very cool. And then I have Western Kentucky. We just looked at that stadium. So yeah, I feel like we got the same favorite, and New Mexico State is probably number 2 or 3. And then, for me, I just, you mentioned the photos of Jacksonville State and JSU Stadium and what it looked like. Just that press box is so impressive. And it really just gives this I'm bad with adjectives, but like this regal look of an older stadium. And I'm excited to see that field house done. So maybe after the visit this October with the improvements, that one may move up the list. But, we're pretty close to being exactly on the same page.
There we go, folks. Are you on the same page? All right, come on. Are you a stadium head? I see 1,306 people viewing this right now. All right. So be a true stadium head and hop over to youtube.com/@stadiumheadsSGPN. Hit that subscribe button, or you can subscribe, and I should say not or, subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, whatever. Get on over there, type in Stadium Heads Podcast, because one day I know I'm going to like 5 different feeds right now. That shit ain't going to be forever. So get on over there. Shout out to the chat. LFG says, hey, look, he mentions, it's like he knows what we're doing here. Big Sky Conference venues are fire. Well, guess what? They're so fire that next week we are diving into the FCS to talk about Big Sky stadiums. And if you don't know the Big Sky, A, flag on the play, but B, you're going to love some of these venues because they do college football right. Please, folks, if you can, give Michael a follow on Twitter at CFB Campus Tour. Like I said, you just should follow that account. Like, I know, like, I'm going to tell you to follow my account in a minute. Okay. you'll get my tweets. But it's not as good as Michael's. Like Michael's traveling around the damn country. All right. He's in different cities every single night. You know, he's grabbing Florida International beers. You know what I mean? The next night he's sleeping in his car in Brookings, South Dakota. You know, it's a fun follow. You got to do it. That's how I even became to be friends with him. So at CFB Campus Tour, get over there and do that. And Big Sky next week, folks. Also, please, I'm on Twitter at TheColbyD. Follow. Check out the college football experiences. We're breaking down all 134 college football teams. And shout out to David Matola. Well, this is one you know my thoughts. We'll get to them. But next week, Big Sky. This is the Stadium Heads podcast, Conference USA style. Get yourself out to the Sun Bowl, folks. All right. Until next time, this is the Stadium Heads podcast, Conference USA style. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.
Mailbox 1.
I'm not saying I'm impossible to outsmart my body and soul, or nothing without heart. And I'm not saying I'm impossible to outrun my body and soul, or nothing without love. And I'm not saying I'm impossible to outdo my body and soul, or nothing without truth. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but you're nothing without yourself. We're the obsession to be a part of that, started that. Mind over matter don't matter in the market. I've seen much smarter cats have heart attacks. Logic is leaders need lambs to be lethargic. Match wits with the half-wit phantom. I don't need jumper cables or mic cords to analyze an analytical anthem. Between my two ears, an engine pumping the life force. Force field for your grip on the grievance. Still gonna feel unchallengeable and stiff. So arrange the pieces to appear cohesive. All the hard work will go largely ignored if your hands are covered with post-its and paper cuts. You need to have your voice in the vice grip. The one who made it famous ain't the one who made it up. You don't get overtime just for working the night shift. I'm not saying I'm impossible to outsmart my body and soul, or nothing without heart. And I'm not saying I'm impossible to outrun my body and soul, or nothing without love. And I'm not saying I'm impossible to outdo my body and soul, or nothing without truth. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but you're nothing without yourself. Every time I close my eyes, I'm taken to the same place, a playing field, and every contestant's got the game face. Everybody's yelling, you ought to play it safe. Make sure them shoes are tied and ankles tape. Shake the cobweb, hit the ground running. This is how cunning I can get with the footwork. You're doing it right, well, it shouldn't hurt. Flirt with greatness, still I run the famous. Nice high heels, I got mics with spikes. Trampling the home team and the turf of light. For the few fleet of foot, too fast for me. I fear none, cause I run and ignore the pig. Of feet by the tree, they're the fast asleep. In love with the game, you adore the head.